Hello, my name is Sasha Farbach, and you're watching World Today. Now, unless you live totally off the grid and you're hidden away offline, then you'll be familiar with cybercrime. Some, unfortunately, may already even have been a victim of a cyber attack, or also likely that you don't even know it yet. Welcome to the world of cybersecurity. Ultimately, crime pays, and cyber is no different. Now, it's estimated that cybercrime could continue to rise and cost the world up to $10 trillion annually by 2025. Now, the United Nations seems to have had enough and is aiming to create the world's first treaty on countering cyber criminals. Now, it's a gargantuan task and one which already has some analysts worried that it may be misused by authoritarian governments to curtail human rights. So let's discuss it all now on tonight's show. I'm joined by Ivana Stradner, advisor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and Igor Protosovitsky, WSB Emerito University in Warsaw, who joins me now in the studio. Welcome to both of you. Hello, thanks for joining us here. Now, before we begin our discussion,
thank you very much for inviting me.
Welcome. I just want to play a little bit of a primer here to ground us here. Let's share that with you and our audience.
For the past 2 years, UN member states have been discussing a treaty to address cybercrime, potentially the first of its kind. However, the treaty's success depends on a well-defined scope and safeguards to prevent potential risks. If not carefully structured, the treaty might compromise human rights online and offline, and authoritarian regimes could exploit it to curtail online freedom and expression. Russia, Belarus, China, Nicaragua and Cuba propose controversial inclusions such as criminalizing incitement to subversive activities and coercion to suicide through digital means. China suggests penalizing the spread of false information causing social disorder. Moreover, the timing of the treaty is aligned with the commencement of Russia's war in Ukraine. Numerous UN members have criticized Moscow hostile actions and raised doubts about the feasibility of engaging in sincere negotiations with the country. After 5 out of 6 sessions, negotiations have reached a crucial point. State representatives are gathering in New York to talk about the treaty. UN aims to officially adopt the treaty at the September 2024 UN General Assembly.
All right, so I also want to build a bit of a case here and give a little lead in to cybercrime. I think for many people, Igor, this is still something that is far away. They still don't connect to it as well. But if we look at cybercrime, I think if we total it all up in the world, it would be the third largest economy in the world. So give us some more ideas of why it matters so much, why still people aren't paying attention to it.
Well, you see, on one hand, we have large variety of different cyber attacks. We have attacks that are addressed against certain particular people. We have attacks against certain government entities and certain organizations. One are directed, the other are undirected. So if you put some malicious software to the network once, it will spread instantly, and it's designed to infect as many machines as possible and do the harm that it was designed to do. So one are designed to gather data, the other are designed to destroy data, to hide data, to encrypt your information and ask you to politely pay the money, pay the ransom to get control of your data.
Like how you said politely, because I think that's not the word that most people would choose to say. You mentioned one interesting point there. You said about encryption, and I think it's ransomware. That's the big word here, right?
Yes,
which has been in the headlines so many times. I want to also get to you now, Ivana. Now, we have many cases here of cybercrime, as Igor has just mentioned, but I think much of it is about being destructive. It's about coercion. It's about financial gain. So it's a whole litany of things. Already defining it, I think, is a gargantuan task. So give us a little primer now of this new or attempted treaty, and in full, it's the United Nations Treaty on Countering the Use of Information and Communications Technologies for Criminal Purposes. That's a long-winded name there. Give us a little bit of a heads up of
So what a great opportunity, right, to try to prevent cybercrime. So the United Nations has been on this task for several years. As a matter of fact, since 2017, when Russia presented a new treaty on combating cybercrime in the United Nations. And why? Because Moscow was not happy with the previous treaty called the Budapest convention because they claimed that it was too intrusive. So in 2019, Russia put forward a resolution that was sponsored along, with Belarus, Cambodia, China, Iran, Myanmar, Nicaragua, Syria, and Venezuela. Because what they wanted to do, they wanted to set up an international convention to combat cybercrime, and they put it like in the United Nations General Assembly. In the meantime, the United States also put forward another resolution, but let's not forget that we are talking about United Nations during the Trump administration, where the United States was very, very absent from the United Nations, which led Russia to lead the efforts and to win the final votes in 2019, which really raised a lot of problems and a lot of questions among information security lawyers, among information security practitioners, human rights lawyer, et cetera, et cetera. So the United States since then has been back, and they put like numerous other, amendments to it and negotiations. What you just mentioned, this is the sixth session, the last session basically on the negotiations treaty, where today they will start negotiations until September the 1st on something that is called zero draft, because the ultimate goal is really to have a new treaty in 2024. Now, I want to emphasize something very important. I don't believe that the United Nations can prevent cyber crimes because stakes are very costly, and no matter what China and Russia sign, they're not democracies. They do not have to follow the rules. They can just sign whatever they want and to continue with cybercrime, because my colleague would just, mention how important cybercrime actually it is, for them. It serves as a very, very important tool for places such as China and Russia to asymmetrically challenge the West. Russia, for example, they know that it's very, very difficult to counter the United States using tanks, jets, etc. So one of the best ways for them is actually to asymmetrically challenge the United States. So today, as we are talking, the delegates have gathered to continue, with negotiations. I'm not very positive about this particular treaty, at least in the shape that it is, but I'm also not positive about this treaty that it's such, that it can prevent crimes. However, although, this is a very realistic approach, I also do believe that being absent from the United Nations, it's also wrong, because that would allow Russia and China to use this particular treaty to legitimize their digital authoritarian efforts that we can talk maybe later.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Ivana, it surprised me at the beginning because you said that the nation behind all of this, that the initial instigator of this is actually Russia. I find that, Igor, quite remarkable. And sort of, as we said, there isn't really too much trust in these negotiations. Also, I mean, it's 60 articles, 9 chapters. Do you think that even if, after all, the dust settles, 6 negotiation rounds, maybe perhaps more to go, Igor, is this going to achieve, is it going to be fit for purpose here?
Everything depends on what sort of business they have in introduction of such acts. Plus, the outcome will be maybe a slight change of Russians' perspective on the international theater. Plus, it doesn't matter what outcome comes from the United Nations, because all the acts that are introduced by this organization has to be legitimized in the internal law by every single member country, and it cannot be introduced by force. It has to be by their own will. So it's a very good sign that international organizations become interested in cybersecurity, but I see this only by the first sign that something is going to change, because if we take under consideration all sorts of threats that occur in the world, we are talking not about hundreds, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of bad events, of attacks, only in Poland, only this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, the scale of this is gargantuan. I think also what people forget is that even if an attack occurs, that if it's a hospital, if it's a private citizen, some of these attacks are in the system for a long time. I think the average on the latest report is about 277 days to identify even if you have been attacked, right?
Yes, exactly. And what we see are only our own data, our own mobile phones, our home computers. We don't take under consideration national critical infrastructure, which also can be a scope of attack.
Yeah, indeed. So, Ivana, you've already kind of made your point here about that you don't believe that this is going to really work. There's, I think, attempts by the private sector as well to bring some sort of uniformity into cybersecurity. I mean, that's still missing for IoT, which we have billions of devices out there right now unsecured. There's no standard for that either. If I think of GDPR, even amongst the European Union nations, I mean, that's still not really a global standard either. So, I mean, at this point as well, and as we have different definitions, I think the scope here is quite interesting and unique and challenging, right? Because you're trying to bring in human rights into all of this. Now, we have the ambassador. She was actually on
without alcohol for 8 months. Holy shit.
This,
are you okay?
Last year.
Need me to ship you a beer?
Clip from Ambassador McCarthy for that next
I can ship you some good beers, my dude. Some good ones. Joking though, congratulations. That's fucking amazing.
Focusing on some critical elements, such as definitions of certain cyber-dependent crimes, procedures for cooperation, provisions
when you say first beer, a little sour, not as junipery.
And to have an
what's juniper?
An instrument that takes into account
what is juniper beer? Juniper beer.
Our obligations as nations to protect individuals as we seek to help them fight this scourge. Hence the emphasis on human rights. One country's definitions of a crime is not always another country's definition, and we are very carefully going through the definitions. That will also be a critical part. But
also
again,
be a critical part.
Want this to be a broad,
oh yeah, it's
instrument.
I was actually bored yesterday, and then I was tying it up, and now I don't know how to untie it, so it's staying. It's staying for a while. I was watching Topson and I didn't know what to do with myself, so I was like cutting shit around. There was a paper here. It's like it's destroyed now.
And also this wish of the ambassador saying she wants
had too much coffee.
Consensus-based instrument. So both these, I mean, we couldn't get unanimity
consensus-based instrument.
In
boy.
Can we do it here in cybercrime?
Also check this out.
So I
it's a
agree
glass
tremendously difficult
of ice.
To find a mutual,
it's just ice.
As a matter of
like a little bit of it is juice. Everything else is just ice. Can you hear the ice?
Information security.
You can.
And for that particular reason, it is because they combine both the technical.
It's
part,
34
example,
degrees.
Attacks on critical infrastructures versus psychological part, cognitive part, what we call here information operations or psychological operations. That's not, for example, how we in the West perceive cybersecurity. And a very similar thing is really
34 degrees Celsius.
And the scope of it. And this is
disgusting, huh?
How
much is that?
Where my concerns stem
are you doing better or worse?
This treaty has very little
I'm
to
dying.
do with cybercrime.
I'm dying.
See that these treaties
if I didn't have a stream, I wouldn't be like wearing clothes.
Such as China and Russia, but also other authoritarian
Topson, he is on Kick, he's on YouTube. He got banned on Twitch.
And under really fundamental rights of billions
Twitch
of people
was a little pussy, so they got rid of him.
With special attention, for
but
example,
he exists on Kick, he exists on YouTube under the same name. I watch him every day after my stream, so.
Journalists after, and that is because there are two particular problems with this treaty. First, I believe that this treaty raises
by the way, Ivana is ours.
Extremely important concerns
Ivana is
about
Balkan.
privacy and surveillance that would allow basically arbitrary surveillance in authoritarian countries, which would clearly undermine the right to privacy. And the second thing, the draft would still allow the criminalization of speech under the guise of allegedly, preventive. cybercrime.
I see that.
Forget that even in January, China actually urged states to legitimize dissemination of false information. And this is precisely what will allow authoritarian states to target political opposition. And I just want to,
Ivana is,
that we cannot expect
I think,
countries such
Serbia.
as Russia and China to dominate this treaty.
Vucic kind of fears this woman.
Think about their domestic policies. So the Kremlin, for example, has controlled information space also by trying to grow a homegrown RUNET as an alternative to global internet. And with China, also China has this whole Golden Shield project that Beijing has been able actually to regularly surveil, its citizens on the internet and censor their access to online content, let alone Russian domestic laws. Because think about this, even last year in 2022, Putin put forward extremely strict rules. Like, for example, now in Russia, if you use the word war instead of using the word special military operation, you can end up in jail.
Banning swastikas and hammer and sickle.
Moscow also put extremely harsh laws on VPN, virtual private networks.
Should have been done before fucking based.
Which is Russian version of
can't wait for UN to make a statement about this. UN is going to be like, actually, we are very concerned about the minority of Soviets living in Estonia being persecuted. Finland. The minority, Soviet minority, is going to feel persecuted and unable to express themselves.
I do not believe that this particular treaty can stop cyber criminals going after individuals as well as corporations in the West. That is, as I mentioned, an asymmetric way for Vladimir Putin as well as Beijing to go after
Swastikas
However,
depends.
I also do believe that we need to
depends
be
on
and very
how to say it, how you would define a ban.
And not to allow places
because like here, for example,
Russia to regulate and to undermine privacy and
in
free
some
speech.
situations,
Once again, I'm sitting here in Washington,
you may
DC,
get into like actual issues if you're like broadcasting it for a public
an obligation, to follow it.
Audience is the word. If you're broadcasting it for the audience, but usually they will just like ask you to cover it up and that's it.
They don't have
it's not
to
properly
pay such
banned.
a domestic audience cost. They can sign whatever they want and do whatever they want. And after all, let's not forget, when some people, ask me, why would China and Russia care about United Nations? Well, both Russia and China are tremendously active in the United Nations. And the reason for that is very simple.
Why is he using the conservative
Beijing
liberalism?
And Moscow use the United Nations to show that we live in a multipolar world, to show that they also have powers and to also rally
That's a weird ass
allies.
username.
What do you think that Putin was discussing a few weeks ago in Africa? One of the things that they were discussing was precisely
not really.
Information security.
Kind of fits with
and as a matter of fact,
Jewish people, doesn't it?
During the Moscow conference on international security, he invited nations
Art and education,
to
they're allowed.
stand behind
For everything else, I think
Russian
it's banned.
efforts, when it comes to information security and this particular cybercrime convention.
Right. So a lot that was said there.
Man,
Ivana
like
is
that.
very
Oof.
strong. I think made the case here that Russia and China very much are using this to their advantage. Very much, we must.
Yeah, I
be
don't
at
feel
the
like there should
table.
be any
The West
difference
must be
between
at
the two.
table. Let's go
I
over to
keep on
Ivana.
like
If we look
thinking
at also
of
the definition, the
differences
scope,
in displaying
even if this
either,
is a patchy way,
but
we're
no.
not even sure what this is going to look
And
like.
I'm
We
absolutely
agree.
GG
I mean,
with
it's
both
already
of them
been over
being
2 years as negotiations have carried on.
banned in most
The
situations.
enforceability of all this seems also not really effective.
Well, it depends on the perspective. If we take under consideration that Russia was world first victim of cyber terror, cyber warfare actually. Back in the 1980s, their critical infrastructure back in
Should have
Siberia
terrored
was
them better.
attacked with cyber
Should
warfare
have
and destroyed.
cyber terrored them
That
a lot
could
stronger.
be a good starting point for taking such initiative to change the world by introducing international anti-cyber warfare law or act or whatever. But right now what we can see is just attempt to introduce
I kind of wonder when I think about this now.
Their own business.
Do you think after Russia loses this war,
new international law that should
do you
be
think USA people,
cybersecurity or information
talking about
security,
progressives, for example, specifically, do you think they will stop
jacking
jacking off to USSR?
The definition of cyber, as you said in Russian, it's a completely different word. It doesn't exist.
Like, do we
in the same
need to
context we have it
crush
in
their
English. But even in
idea
English,
of
worked in cybersecurity for a while. Many
imperialism,
of the didn't want to use
just like we need to crush the Russian
cybersecurity
one,
for
or is it not gonna
information
work?
security.
And
It's
Russians
become
may,
that
you know,
buzzword,
have
I
a
think,
chance to
very much
improve,
in many
but
cases. But also
tankies
the idea
never
here,
will.
we see, I think, very much again a certain splintering of different areas. Can
if they
you
ban
see
Hammer and Sickle, it would
potentially
mean
here,
they need to
beyond
change their
this,
logo or get banned.
negotiation,
I'm
beyond this
absolutely okay with that.
Draft treaty that we might have a case where we
I'm
have a private
absolutely
sector
okay with
very
that.
different jurisdictions of what the European Union does, what the United States is doing, what China and Russia
There's
are
no
doing.
really,
Do you see
there's
that
no way
as potentially
to
coming out of this? Because we all have different definitions. Even India has a different
put it in your
definition here.
logo
So
in a
Ivana,
way
just
that
briefly at
means
the end, will we
anything
have
but
a jurisdiction difference here of how we tackle
glorification,
cybercrime in the future.
right? So I would be GG with it being banned
different
of
countries
social
have
networks.
different definitions. As a matter, Russia is only using cybersecurity when they refer, for the Western.
When USSR was invading and occupying, it
cybersecurity
wasn't
efforts.
imperialism.
And as I mentioned,
It was fleeing the
if
workers.
you
Yes,
read,
yes,
for
and when they killed
example,
people in gulags,
how
they weren't
different
killing
countries
people based on an ethnic
perceive
basis. They were just killing
cybersecurity in
enemies of the state.
general,
It just so
law, I would
happens
say,
that
like, they
many
completely
enemies of the
different
state were found in
definitions.
other
So I want to
ethnicities.
emphasize that
But
this is not a treaty. It's like still a convention.
leftists don't
And
fetishize
it
Russian
still,
imperialism.
provides
It's a certain
just the
sect of
guidance.
conservatives
And
that
this
worship
is
Putin.
why a lot
Leftists
of
just
people
fetishize
are
Lenin.
not so,
I
concerned
would,
because it also has to go to domestic,
from the
processes
position of
ratification, etc., etc. So this is, as I mentioned in a theory,
I'm trying to
a step
figure
in the
out
right
if, like,
direction
maybe
to
it's not
regulate,
fetishizing
cybercrimes.
Russian
I do believe that
imperialism,
there are
but
a
like I
lot
don't
of,
know,
different,
because you know what you see a
regional
lot
efforts
in
and different,
USA
less
leftists,
formal
USA
efforts
progressives
to regulate
specifically,
cybercrime.
you see hatred for
However, as I,
USA,
mentioned at the very beginning,
which is
and I would
why
like
a
to,
lot of them
end with
support
that,
what Russia is
that I'm
doing.
not very hopeful that this
It's like,
treaty
oh yeah,
can
Russia is
prevent,
going to beat
countries
Ukraine,
such as Russia
and then when
China,
Russia
stakes
wins,
are
we will
so
finally
high for
see the
them
military-industrial
to follow
complex in
those
USA
rules.
crumbling, right? Stuff like that.
nevertheless, we should
Russia and Ukraine are battling right now. Should we go and help Ukraine? No, we shouldn't, because neocons would say that we need to go, and we hate neocons. So we hate the idea of going and helping a nation survive an invasion, right? Stuff like that. I don't know how much I can see why fetishization of Russian imperialism. It may be just clinging to anything they see as anti-USA, which in this case is Russian imperialism, right? But Russian imperialism itself may not be the most important part of the ideology. I could see that. I could see that. They definitely have very, very sick views of this, mostly based on the fact that they just hate USA. Blame USA first movement? Yeah, stuff like that, stuff like that. What's the Dugin term? Multipolarism? Like, oh, we need to allow multipolarism, and we need to allow other countries to also have the power and not to hoard all the power for USA. So what Russia is doing is actually a good thing, you know, stuff like that. I'm not sure how I would call that. Not normal, definitely. I don't think it's all in most progressive, so as USSR. Yeah, to be fair, I don't know how I see people like that. How to say this? I don't see them as actual progressives in the very much same way. I don't even think that you can be a leftist and support Russia. I don't think you are a leftist. I think you like thinking you are a leftist, but you're not a leftist. In the same way, I don't think you can be anti-imperialist and support Russia, right? There's no way for you to be anti-imperialism and supportive of Russia. Plenty of these people tell to themselves that they are anti-imperialist, but they are not. So you know, when it comes to like what progressives, I do think most progressives existing in a society are genuinely progressives, which I do think we see on the fact that most people support aiding Ukraine. Most progressives in society are genuine progressives. Most leftists are like genuinely leftists, and they have proper takes that align with the ideology. A lot of online ones I don't think are actually leftists, but are grifting just to get cash money, which is where the whole, you know, stupidity thing comes from. If China would not be commie and use the hammer and sickle, I bet the symbols of communism would be banned in max 1 week. Yeah, I wish. I kinda wish. They see support of Ukraine as American imperialism, so it's not purely an anti-Russian stance. Both parties in US have their isolationists. I think isolationism, I would see isolationism different than spreading around ideas of multipolarity, which is what we've seen very often, for example. Even the thing with denying agency to Ukraine, even that I would say I don't really think you can be a genuine, I don't know if I would call it leftist. I don't think you can genuinely engage in politics in any way while blaming USA for everything. But I think that engaging with it in a very, you know, shallow way, this is where you get support for Russia, and then also this is where you get to the fact that people aren't really what they claim to be. Oh, pro-Russian. They see support of Ukraine as American imperialism too, so it's not purely a pro-Russian stance. I mean, it comes to a conversation. I think it was perfectly mirrored in that one Dylan Burns debate with, there was Anastasia and there was that imbecile, the ANCAP one. You see, the ANCAP, in which Anastasia was trying so hard to explain that, hey, Ukraine wants to side with the West. Western interests right now align with Ukraine's interests. As long as Ukraine remains allied to the West, it's gonna get a bunch of good shit. As long as Ukraine remains close to Russia, it's going to be in danger, right? So the interest for Ukraine is to be close to the West and close to USA. They choose to be in that situation. Seeing it as imperialism, I think it's kind of similar to talking about NATO expansion. I think it comes from the same place of denying agency to countries and just choosing to see them as like little puppets, you know what I mean? Oh, actually, it wasn't supposed to be techno, but now it is, so. You don't understand communism implies authority and lack of property totally and censorship? No. Wizard, you're not understanding it, okay? That's what communism used to be symbolizing, okay? Why am I not opening this properly? I have to download? Bam! Okay, wait. What you're talking about is actually what communism used to be in these failed states, but now it's gonna be better. Okay, now it's gonna be better. This time communism's gonna succeed.
Jeder dritte junge Mann hatte noch nie eine Freundin. Du gehörst dazu, schau keine Pornos. Wähl nicht die Grünen. Geh raus an die frische Luft. Steh zu dir. Sei selbstbewusst. Guck geradeaus. Und vor allem, lass dir nicht einreden, dass du lieb, soft, schwach und links zu sein hast. Echte Männer sind rechts. Echte Männer haben Ideale. Echte Männer sind Patrioten. Dann klappt's auch mit der Freundin.
What?
Jeder dritte junge Mann hatte noch nie eine Freundin. Du gehörst dazu, schau keine Pornos. Wähl nicht die Grünen. Geh raus an die frische Luft.
Don't vote about the Greens if you wanna have a girlfriend.
Guck geradeaus. Und vor allem, lass dir nicht einreden, dass du lieb, soft, schwach und links zu sein hast. Echte Männer sind rechts. Echte Männer haben Ideale. Echte Männer sind Patrioten. Dann klappt es auch mit der Freundin.
It's like he's trying to make Andrew Tate style content, but he is so much worse and has nothing to say. that's what it seems like. Ivana Knoll. Oh yeah. Our cheerleader. Our cheerleader, of course. She's loved by the country. She was great representation. Serbs had a conspiracy theory that we sent her so that Serbian men would be looking at her and then they would see the boobies. But they would be looking at boobies and then boobies would have the Croatian squares. There's a word for that. I don't know what the word is. They would have squares all over it, right? So they would be like, happy because boobies. And then they would be like, happy because Croatia. So basically we would be manipulating them into liking Croatia. That was the theory. Kim, you gonna vote for this man? I'm gonna vote for this man to go into the European Union Parliament and teach the men in Europe how to be real men. Oh, Iran ends up being a puppet of someone else. Yeah, that's true. It's a question of to what extent, and a lot of that is determined by leverage power. Could see that. I do though think that I think being someone's puppet gives it an inherently negative meaning in a way, and I don't really think it's a realistic way of looking at the situation, you know? It's like how, for example, Croatia is in European Union, right? So you very often see Serbs spreading these dumbass conspiracies about how Croatia is actually controlled by European Union and Croatia is actually controlled by USA, and we can make no decisions of our own because we have to be we are controlled by all of these countries in order for them to give us aid, which just really isn't what's going on. I think a lot of times small countries just want to choose an alliance with someone bigger. I don't think that necessarily makes them a puppet. I don't think that necessarily means that they will be controlled by outside powers. I do think they can choose their alliances, and I do think they can choose how far they want to take the alliance. And I think this is completely ignored by people who... I want to say people who are tankies, by people with a lack of knowledge on these topics, which is, you know, where you get the whole thing with like, oh yeah, helping Ukraine is actually USA imperialism. It's a very shallow way of looking at the situation. The right is waiting for that. Hey, they got Putin. And yeah, GDX has life. Puppets are just no agency, which is a bad way of framing it. Yeah. Spheres of influence is a very real thing. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's there's a strong, I want to say, negative reaction I have to just seeing spheres of influence. Which is why I feel the need to like immediately explain the thing. Because spheres of influence, there's been a surge, to say it like that, there's been a surge in people who have no knowledge nor interest, I think, in geopolitics, especially of Europe, who are trying anyways to make comments on geopolitics of Europe. And a lot of them have gotten down the rabbit hole of Mearsheimer and people alike to him. And they have gone down a very interesting path of changing what spheres of influence actually are. Which is, think of you know how Twitter tankies hate Baltics? You know how they hate the fuck out of Baltics because Baltics dared to break the Soviet sphere of influence? It's very similar to that. It's people who say that, oh yeah, well, Russia just wanted Ukraine in its sphere of influence, so the invasion was justified. It's taking something that is actually, talking about spheres of influence, talking about how bigger countries affect the decision-making of smaller countries, all of that is a valid conversation, but it's been perverted by people, and it's been made into making excuses for an unjustified, inexcusable invasion, which is why I do feel the need to I feel the need to have a little disclaimer whenever we talk about anything related to this. Croatia is controlled by 26 EU countries. Also for 26 European Union countries being controlled by Croatia. No, you're not getting it. No, we're all controlled by Germany. That's the current opinion. It's that we are all being controlled by Germany. I have heard a sentence today. I haven't heard it in a long time. It was about Croatia's switch to euro, and someone was bitching about the fact that we don't have kunas anymore, and they have said the sentence, European Union did with euro what Hitler wanted to do with military, like bringing the entirety of Europe under Germany's rule, right? And I was like, it's just a natural way to describe the inevitable tug of war that plays out. Yeah. Like, it's good to notice them, it's good to observe them. It's even, I think, acceptable to observe that, hey, after the fallout of USSR, Ukraine was going closer to the Western sphere of influence rather than going towards the Russian one, which made Russians quite unhappy about losing influence in this particular country, right? I can understand pointing this out, just like using it to make excuses for an invasion. Nah, I don't know. Simple one-size-fits-all solution to a complex situation, they tend to be wrong. I mean, I don't know, my simple one-size-fits-all solution is, to bomb the capital city of the aggressor. And I feel like it worked in 1999, so I'm just, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I don't know when this would have failed. Worked for us, probably would work now. Imagine Biden now suggesting someone goes and bombs Moscow. My dude. Well, let me clicking on these. Shit. Bruh, fucking kid. Just horrible. Horrible. Here's a reminder, by the way, that Ukraine really needs drones. So, I don't know who has gotten their paycheck recently, but I do know that there's a lot of fundraisers open. So if you want to be joining any of them, there's a lot of chances. What is this? What is this? Who's it gonna be? Right, so they would be like, happy because boobies. And then they would be like, happy because Croatia. So, right, so they would be like, happy because boobies. And then they would be like, happy because Croatia. So, right, so they would be like, I mean, that was actually the conspiracy. You are misinterpreting it as if I made up the conspiracy when it was actually Serbs who made it. But that was the idea, yeah. Ivana Knoll was sent there, so Serb men would get wet. Wet. Not Slovenian man, holy shit, we're talking about Serbs. Would get hard when they look at the Croatian, and then they would start liking Croatia more. And then they would lose Kosovo. Fucking losers. Have you seen them bitching about Kosovo, by the way? Oh shit, I have to show you. Vucic, piece of shit, was meeting with a bunch of people yesterday, and he made warnings that if any of the countries recognize Kosovo, that there will be consequences. They have opened up the Pandora's box, he goes. And we don't know what he meant. We don't know what specifically he meant to say by it. I've been seeing people trying to figure out what it is for the entirety of the day. No one knows. Like, what is he threatening to do? He's a Serb. He's ruling Serbia. What can you do from Serbia? It's not like you have any sort of power. You can't even sanction anyone. What can you do? What do you mean there's gonna be consequences? Russia attacked Ukraine. Therefore, according to the UN Charter, Ukraine has the legal right to defend its country and its people. Russia is violating the UN Charter, which prohibits the use of force. Russia is relentlessly bombing civilian objects in Ukraine, granaries, hospitals, churches. Ukraine is defending itself within the framework of international law. She noted that Ukraine faces the problem of demining huge territories previously occupied by Russia. According to the minister, Russian forces have mined territories in Ukraine about the size of Western Germany. And now Berlin is discussing with its allies for the assistance to Kyiv in demining. Bro, can you imagine this? Holy shit, can you imagine this a year ago? How weird is it thinking about this right now? Can you imagine if a year ago, when the invasion, you know, just happened, a bit more than a year ago, okay. If we were like, hey, you know what we're gonna be discussing next year? At the end of the summer, you know what we're gonna be discussing? Whether it's morally okay and legal for Ukraine to hit Moscow with drones. Man, we came such a long way, holy shit. And then also we have a German arguing that, yeah, it is okay. A German? Imagine that, imagine going back to like 2014 to Ukraine and being like, hey, you see now how Merkel is there, spreading her legs wide for Putin? Can you imagine in 2023, you're going to have a foreign ministry, what is she, spokesperson? Arguing that it's legal for Ukraine to hit Moscow with drones? Dude, such a long way, such an improvement in politics, truly. This makes me kind of happy. This is like those news we read yesterday about like the fishermen stopping Russia, you know? It makes me happy. Something makes you very, very happy about everything. She's the foreign minister. I keep on confusing her. Who's your defense person? A German? Germans are based Green Party, which was traditionally super anti-war. Even better, because she is anti-war. By wanting to go and fuck Russia in the ass, she is anti-war. This is the purest anti-war position one could be taken, is that we must look at countries which start an unjustified invasion and we must destroy them. It's the most anti-war position one could ever take. Fucking based, just beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, based. Wish all Greens had balls like this. Hey, Alexa. Like, nice. Wait, what did I click on? What did I click on? Police station in Moscow had been attacked? No. With Molotovs? Russians have just unlocked the Molotov perk. In the year of our Lord 2023, after having the same man in power for 20 years. Russians have unlocked the Molotov perk. Good luck, Russians. Good luck. Let's hope they teach more Russians how to use it. It's gonna be what's that Greek story about that god who taught humans how to make fire. It's gonna be like this. There's like one dude, his name is Dmitry or something, and he figured out how to make a Molotov, and now he's going to teach Prometheus. Yes. And now he's going to teach other Russians how to also make Molotovs. This could be a creation of a new national myth for Russia. Come on. They first need to unlock the balls perk. Okay, it's that's gonna go a bit harder, okay? Come on. They're trying. This is already a huge thing for them, okay? This is a huge thing for Russians, okay? Come on. If you saw this like happening in France, this is an average Friday night in France, okay? This is what happens when, you know, bread in France becomes like 1 cent more expensive. This. You wouldn't be too surprised. But seeing this in Russia, it was a step. You know, there's like evolutionary steps. That's what Russians are doing. You know those very unlikely steps for an organism to take? I remember Carl Sagan wrote about it, I think it was Carl Sagan, about how unique it is that we exist as humans and as a species. And he was writing about how there's like several very unlikely steps for a living being to take that it might take to reach a human. So it starts with like, oh, it's like one cellular organism, and then it becomes multicellular organism. The second the switch happens, it's like a huge thing. That's like one humongous step that is very unlikely to happen on other planets. So on most planets where life forms, they will never evolve past one singular cell. That's it. Then you have another step. I think the next one is sex. I'm pretty sure the second step is sex. Because, you know, two organisms having sex and then sharing their genetic material to make a new organism, also a very unlikely step to happen, because what you will most see is them just, you know, doubling themselves forever and that's it, and never really like changing the genetic code. And then it goes up, and then it reaches like sentience being the last step it needs to take to be like really close to humans, right? Well, in Russia, what you're seeing right now is a very unlikely step for them to take, which is making Molotovs. Russians are deathly allergic to Molotovs. I know, it seems like a weird thing, but they are deathly allergic. So the fact that right now they're making Molotovs, at least one of them is, maybe it's like a stray Ukrainian, Georgian person, maybe it's a Chechen, could have been a Chechen, who the fuck knows. But one of them, maybe, possibly made a Molotov. Huge thing. Our Greens were generally very anti-war and in favor of demilitarization. Okay, that's horrible then. That is horrible, and yeah, should not be what's the word I would use? Normalized. Holy shit. Why don't we demilitarize these people trying to defend themselves? Russian propagandists admit Russian authorities lie to their population. Is there gonna be Simonyan? Because Simonyan already admitted something like this. I actually wonder.
Заботы о национальной безопасности можно обосновать любые запреты и практически любые формы насилия. Теперь что, и поэтому нужно следует, что из этого следует? Какие соблазны?
Забота о национальной безопасности не означает необходимость лгать. Можно просто не обозначать.
Для кого-то обозначает, а для кого-то не обозначает. Понимаете?
It's not about building armies on 50-year-olds. You don't build them on 50-year-olds. But you do expect the nation to respond when it needs to be saving itself, you know?
И наше правительство, которое находится на набережной, будет этим пользоваться.
Мне задали вопрос. Или вам?
Мне нравится это общий формат.
Он развивает
Demons are doing okay.
Вы начали, я объясню вам. Вы начали очень хорошего обобщения и допущения. Александр Георгиевич.
Любая власть.
Yeah, someone needs to be digging into trenches.
В какое-то время, в какие-то моменты говорить неправду своему народу. Так устроен вообще. Если вы верите, что есть какая-то власть в любой стране мира, которая никогда не лжет и не кривит душой со своим народом, то вы, наверное,
первый раз вы говорили совсем по-другому, Виктор.
It's not about giving your life to a government. That's not what's happening in Ukraine. It's not about giving your life for the government. It's about giving your life so Russians don't come in and butcher your entire family. Like Vietnam is a different thing, and I understand why from the USA perspective. If you compare Vietnam, if you try to look at this war through the lens of Vietnam, you're definitely gonna get it very wrongly. But like I understand why from your perspective you may not understand that you're seeing it wrongly, right? But Ukrainians are not giving their life to government. They're fighting to save their own people. This isn't about what Ukrainian government wants. This is about the fact that Russians will kill every single Ukrainian. They said so openly. They keep on openly saying so. This is a genocidal invasion. It's not about what the government wants, it's not about what the West wants, it's not about what USA wants. It's about Ukrainian right to exist as a nation. Yeah, but like I understand from, you know, the position of Vietnam, I understand why he may be wrong. It's a USA thing. I think we had conversations on this, right? On how countries who haven't fought a war on their soil for their own existence, they don't understand. Yeah, that's why you're able to like look at all wars through the same lens. It's because you don't understand the difference. And this is because you haven't had a war on your soil. Right? Like surely if a country, let's say Croatia right now, if we go and invade USA, if we go all the way up to California and we butcher your people on the shores and we start bombing your cities, surely you would be like, yeah, we are justified in defending ourselves. We are justified in saving our people. And we are justified in going and defending ourselves. Right? So yeah. Yeah, you can leave. That's okay. Ruskies are butthead because no one pays attention to them like they did when they were Soviets. Ah, that too. That too. Fucking pays though. No, Germany is doing, I think Germany is doing okay-ish. I truly do think Germany is doing okay-ish when it comes to this. But yeah, I don't know. It's very similar to me for like how Americans like constantly try to pretend as if their experiences with war can be translated to Ukrainian right now experiences with war. But it also reminds me of another thing. When was this? Who the fuck made an interview? Oh, it was such a stupid one. On was it on foreign intervention? I'm not even sure. Fuck, I need to find a specific quote here. But the basics of the interview was that, oh, I think it was on Serbia, and it was like how Serbs feel now after USA joined the war to, you know, bomb the fuck out of Belgrade. And someone was like, oh yeah, well, USA action was not justified. And as a way to prove that USA action is not justified, let me show you how the civilians in the area felt about USA joining the war. And when they say civilians in the area, they mean Serbia. They mean just and only Serbia. They mean just and only the country which was doing the invasions and doing the ethnic cleansing and attempting to do genocide, right? And got bombed for it. And then I've seen people be like, okay, but like, why wouldn't you, if you're trying to ask civilians for their opinion, why not ask Kosovars, for example? Right? Because Kosovars were civilians saved by the USA intervention. Surely, if you want to get a proper experience of this, you would also have to ask the victims of Serbian invasions rather than just asking Serbs what they think. And yeah, the only thing you need to know about that is that Kosovars are still naming their children after American leaders at the time. Right? They're incredibly happy with the fact that USA joined and bombed the fuck out of Serbia. We all were very, very happy. We had drinking parties in the country. We have drinking songs for when Belgrade got bombed. People were happy. It was a war lasting for a very long time. There were plenty civilian victims. Mass graves are still being uncovered, my dude. Still fucking being uncovered. We found a new one relatively recently. Just like 2 months ago. It's been decades since the war ended. So, you know, it's impossible to view this war from the USA perspective, and then also it's very wrong to look at it from the Serbian perspective too. You need to be aware of like how different nations have suffered through this and how different peoples have felt about it. So I don't know, just looking at everything through the lens of the Vietnam War feels even dumber than anything. USA isn't sending long-range missiles or aircraft, still no tanks. They have done a lot, but it doesn't seem like they actually want Ukraine to win, just not to lose. Yeah, that's why I was very, very happy with recent developments regarding F-16s. And also I have a piece of news saved on which country. On which country is it? On which country is it? This is European Union. I wasn't thinking of European Union. Bulgaria. Bulgaria. Yeah, nice, Baluk, thank you. Bulgaria supplying Ukraine with Soviet-style armored vehicles. I'm very happy about the fact that European countries are doing all of this. It kind of shows that we don't necessarily have to rely on USA, and I'm very, very, very happy about this. I'm very happy because we're like moving away from them, right? I'm very, very proud of it. Marmelada smakava, yes, really, 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 really good. But also I just like jams. I think I just like jams, so I don't know how. I'm just a big fan of like fruity. It's not too sweet usually. This is one of those jams that isn't really, really sweet. If you have like, for example, plum jam is really, really sweet, right? This one isn't. So this one's actually figs. I was trying to figure out the name for this. Fig. The fig one is actually not as sweet, and I love it. I would recommend. They put walnuts into it. They put cinnamon. We never put cinnamon personally. We never put cinnamon in it, but everything else seems okay-ish. We also didn't really put walnuts. We just kind of, I think we just put figs. You can put some liquor. We have lots of fruit-based liquors, so we just put in whatever we have at hand. But yeah, liquor is a good thing. Wouldn't really know about the rest of them. Bill Clinton is a great name for your son or daughter. That is true. That is true. That is true. Great man too. Saved a lot of lives. Go home, Lavrov. Stand with Ukraine and no to Putin's imperialism. Little Lavrov received a warm Africa welcome, attending so-called BRICS summit. Lavrov replaced Putin, who was too scared to travel outside and inside Russia. Bro. Based. It's in the nature of a truly conservative party to die out. Is it? Why? Why would it be? For what reason? It's not really too smart to go around clicking on these. Holy crap. Go home, Lavrov. Aww. Nice. That's actually based. He's addressing BRICS now? Fuck, I can't see shit on it. I'm seeing news about oh, audience cheering. My man. My fucking man. War games with invading armies, I think it says. Oh yeah, I can zoom in more. I know what this says though, but like I know that one. They start whining about Western coups and then they start one in Africa, bro. But like, oh man, the fact Prigozhin is just there, just chilling. Is it not weird to you people that he's fucking alive? Every time I see news about Prigozhin, I'm like, damn, what's he doing there? What's Prigo doing there? Huh? I thought they would get rid of him, and they never do. They never fucking do. Let me see if there's something I'm putting here. Prigozhin's rolling the crowd. Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. On the Balkan Summit, we're having a Balkan Summit, by the way, right now as we speak. I don't know if you knew about this, but probably our economy is much better than the BRICS one, okay? At the Balkan Summit, it was uncovered that in addition to Macedonia, Croatia is also preparing a new package of military aid to Ukraine of 30 million euros. Thank you, Croatia. You are my best friend. You are the peacekeeper. You are the legend. Thank you, Croatia. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. Croatia is now trying to help save you. General Surovikin will be at the gates of Kiev in February. Surovikin removed from the post of commander of the military and space forces. Fuckers. He is needed for the Russian strategy in Africa. Maybe one day when he isn't needed. We need to somehow make the man start new Russia in Africa. And then battle new Russia against old Russia. Normalization of looting. Are they making memes about looting now? Russians apparently decided not to hide it anymore and are now trying to turn it into a joke. Oh, great. Oh, great. Oh, cute, my man. Can we just comment on the fact that, like, when Ukrainian people do humor in war, they're doing like TikTok dances? And then you have Russians being like, oh, there's no way in war without humor, and they're stealing property from houses that they have occupied. Just, you know, it's cute little contrast. Cute little difference in what we think a joke is. Reminds me of that video. Have you seen the video of that one Ukrainian returning to his house? And he filmed how there was a message taped to the window. Like, just when you enter the house, there's like a hallway and there's a window, mirror. And there was a message taped to it, and it was written by Ukrainian soldiers who, at the time of defending, they moved into the house to live there for a while. And they kept everything as clean as possible. And the dude goes and just films the rest of the house, and it just looks in pristine condition. Luckily, it wasn't hit or anything, so it wasn't, you know, destroyed. But they lived in it for a while, and they were just normal people. And then you get videos now of people returning to their homes that Russians have been living in for months, and they were shitting outside. There's this one video of a man returning to his house, and he had a brand new PC that was left in the house, and it's just taken apart. Just completely taken apart. It's a shell of a computer at this point. Just, the car will be used in the amphibious assault of Odessa. There are the Westernists? No, we don't want them. Ish, ish, ish. We don't claim them. We don't claim them. Surovikin? Oh yeah, this too. Domino's Pizzeria closes all restaurants in Russia, by the way. Apparently they closed it because it's not profitable to work there anymore. So that's not really, you know, too huge of news, but they have closed them anyways. So come on, it's something. It's like when McDonald's closed down. It wasn't too big of a thing, but still it feels good that they are not having this little shred of a Western world. Wagnerites are holding summer camps for children. Great. Is Grisha gonna be here? I wanna see Grisha. Could be any of these. Is that Grisha? Who the fuck knows? A woman knows. What do you mean? I know French, so I have plenty of options. That is not Canada. Where are French-speaking people welcomed? Bro, fucking Wagnerites. You know, this was kinda done. Arkan was kinda doing the same thing. Arkan Just heard something outside. Arkan was also doing the thing of getting kids into his little war criminal camps to teach these kids how to be war criminals. So I'm guessing Russia just following that. Gerasimov. Oh. Russian and Iranian government during the genocide of Ukraine. History repeats itself. The ending will be the same. Yeah, I don't even know too much about that history, to be honest. English is part of education? True. If you know English, you know everything. If you can speak English, you can go anywhere. You can go to Germany, my dude. You can go to fucking Germany, okay? And Germans are very annoying about how much they want to keep German language everywhere. I say this because I'm pissed off about the fact that they dubbed Game of Thrones. So when I was in Germany, when I was watching streaming services to follow Game of Thrones, I couldn't find it in English with like German subtitles. It was only just German dub. That's it. So Netherlands speak better English than the English and Americans? Oh damn. So go move to the Netherlands. I mean, it's not how hard is it to speak better English than, you know, the Americans? No bow hunting in Germany? Really? Is there bow hunting where you are? Japan, Sweden or Norway? Norway is base. Go to Norway. I'm a big fan of Norway recently. Deputification will be harder than de-Stalinization. I don't think either is gonna succeed. I don't think de-Stalinization ever worked. And I don't think de-Putinification is going to work either. It makes me... You know what it makes me think? I read someone looking into... he was looking into Russia and what is Russian perception in the country itself towards its own people. And there was this interesting claim that like Putin is basically almost a blank slate. That Putin doesn't really have as much of symbols of his own as usually people in his position, especially for such a long time, tended to have. So after Putin is gone, Russians will likely go to loving Stalin again. They will likely not be looking for a leader like Putin. They will be looking for a leader like Stalin was. Because they don't really see Putin as like a unique actor of his own. They see him as continuation of Stalin. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting. It was going through, like, for example, how even though Russia does use like Z right now, one of the most common symbols that they have used are the Soviet flags. The Soviet victory flag was everywhere. There's like a very, very... it was shared a lot in the video of a tank at the start of the invasion. There's like a bunch of tanks going into Ukraine, and one of them has the Soviet victory flag. They carried it to outer space. They love their Soviet victory flag. So it's like, kind of interesting how Putin is having to use the symbols from an old dictatorship, because he doesn't really have that many successful symbols from his own. They both are a cult of dictator worshipping. That cannot change in Russia or East Asia or Middle East so easily. That's true. Hey, actually, that Ukrainian woman who makes videos, she made one on how to overthrow dictators. How are dictators overthrown? I haven't watched it. I kind of wonder what she thinks about Putin. Super poor country, but somehow Putin, a public servant, is almost a trillionaire. What makes me very salty is how people don't question it. Right? It's like that talk we had in chat yesterday with the dude who kept on bitching about the fact... sorry, I can't read this and also talk. He was bitching about the fact that Zelensky has mentions, right? But like, that's completely normal. Zelensky was an incredibly famous celebrity before he became the president. For him to have a mansion and some luxury shit, it's completely normal and expected. Didn't he own his own entertainment company or something? Like, man's successful. Man had a career, right? But then, how come the same people who are constantly bitching about the fact Zelensky, a celebrity, has a mansion, the same people never look at Putin and go, hey, this man is a KGB agent. And if you were to trust people who have been speaking out about this lately, he wasn't even on that high position in KGB, right? You're not weirded out by the fact he has such a huge amount of money? How are you not weirded out by that? He shouldn't be having that much money. There's nothing in his life that was actually a proper career, apart from the fact that he hoards the power and he has been keeping on to power, which, you know, usually if someone's a power hoarder and also a money hoarder, usually it denotes a significant amount of corruption. But why do they never talk about that? They're always like bitching about Zelensky, who is a fucking celebrity. Like, he was a media star, come on. What weirds you out about the fact that he has a mansion? If you look at most like AB level actors in your own country, you will probably find that a lot of them also have mansions. Like, come on, it's I don't know. Such a weird thing to be, you know, creating conspiracies around. Hey, why does this very famous star, very famous celebrity in his country, why does he have a mansion? Of course he fucking does. The hell are you talking about?
Час із диктатурою може здаватися, ніби вона існуватиме вічно. Або точно протягне більше за вас. Органи влади міцно вчепилися за всі важливі суспільні сфери. Минає рік за роком без жодної надії на зміни. А високоповажні експерти розбігаються в цінках. Самі диктатури апелюють до такої собі політики вічності. Ось вам і тисячолітній Райх зі своєю монументальною архітектурою, що мало виглядати гарно навіть у вигляді руїн. І СРСР, точніше, у швидкий крах якого вірили одиниці. Одначе навіть непорушні авторитарні й тоталітарні режими гинуть.
Okay, but it's also, yeah, Trump was a billionaire, that's true. I never even thought about comparing him to Trump, but yeah.
І в цьому відео ви дізнаєтесь, як зазвичай вмирають диктатури.
Putin once smuggled a washing machine out of East Germany.
Полягає головна слабкість автократії. Навіщо передавати владу колишнім дантистам, та й взагалі, що ж таке диктатура? І вже традиційно, на відміну від багатьох відео на цю тему, ми не будемо будувати висновки, базуючись на наших бажаннях, плітках чи притягнутих за вуха паралелях. Ми озброїмося фактами, статистикою та історією. Бо ми не
So the problem by not having any morals? Ooh. Is that a view of morality itself? Topson would ask ChatGPT right now.
Від початку слово «диктатор» не мало негативного значення. У Римській республіці так називали особливого посадовця, що за рішенням Сенату здобував на обмежений термін одноосібну владу для вирішення серйозної кризи. Наприклад, саме в такому значенні уповноваженим диктатором Західноукраїнської Народної Республіки був Євген Петрушевич. Та, звісно, жоден політичний режим сучасності не тицяє в себе пальцем зі словами «я диктатура». Навпаки, навіть найбільш авторитарні країни у своїх назвах закріплюють слово «демократичний». Якось Корейська Народно-Демократична Республіка. Тож, як нам розпізнати диктатуру? Професор політичних наук Єльського університету Мілан Сулік у своїй...
It says, if you think you don't have any morals, you likely fit in one of the two moral perspectives. One of them is moral relativism. It posits that moral judgments are relative to individual beliefs, cultural norms, or societal contexts. What is considered morally right or wrong can vary from one culture or individual to another. And then you have moral nihilism, being the other one. And it says it takes a more extreme stance, asserting that moral claims and values have no inherent truth, meaning, or objective basis. From this perspective, there are no moral facts, and statements about morality are ultimately empty or devoid of significance. Do you know he domesticated bears not through behavior, but just through captivating them through his own magnificence. It's like what's that Disney princess? Snow White? Sometimes I hear Putin just like walks up on a mountain and sings a little song. He's like da 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 Russia, and he walks out and there's like a huge like crowd of bears just following along. True story. I've seen it with my own eyes. Genuinely.
Роботі політика авторитарного правління визначає диктатуру як незалежну державу, яка не відповідає бодай одній з двох ознак демократії, а саме обрання законодавчого органу через вільні та конкурентні вибори, чи обрання керівника виконавчої влади через вільні та конкурентні вибори або ж законодавчим органом. За таким критерієм диктатурами є і однопартійна Куба, і держави на чолі з вічними президентами, на кшталт Білорусі, і абсолютні монархії Близького Сходу. Наостанок пару уточнень. Як і дослідники, на чиї книжки ми спиралися, під диктатурою та авторитарним режимом ми матимемо на увазі одне й те саме явище. Також у цьому відео ми не будемо виокремлювати тоталітаризм серед інших недемократичних форм. Якщо ж вам цікаво дізнатися про те, що
even if you don't believe in inherent moral values, you may still be following societal norms and laws and personal preferences.
Ну, і що тут додати? Дякуємо.
It's kind of coffee. It's like one of those iced coffee things.
Диктатури люблять протиставляти себе такому собі слабкому образу демократії. Мовляв, усі ці процедури, бюрократизм, безхарактерність тільки гальмують розвиток країни. Інша річ – міцна рука вождя, партії чи військової хунти. Справжньої військової хунти. І справді, деякі авторитарні уряди досягають успіху, але набагато більше зазнають крах. На кожного Пак Чон Хі, що заклав основу розвитку Південної Кореї, знайдеться свій десяток Кім Ір Сенів чи Асадів, країни яких не назвеш місцями, в яких хочуть жити. Адже диктатури обіймають велику силу та ресурси, але розпоряджатися ними розумно заважає низка проблем. Про них пише професор політичних наук Джин Шарп. Його книжку «Від диктатури до демократії» Лукашенко та російські чиновники називали методичкою помаранчевих революцій.
Wait. I'm trying to like figure out a way to say this. Would moral nihilism lead to unethical behavior more often than like any other moral perspective? Because none of them really... There are striptease dancers from Eastern Estonia, Vatnik City, Narva. Damn, you get striptease dancers as your neighbors? Damn! Damn! You're gonna be like the dude in a joke. Like the dude in a joke, you know the dude in a joke where he like has lesbian neighbors, and they ask him what he wants for his birthday, and he says, "I want a watch." So they buy him like an actual watch, and he's like, Mama plus tractor, is it a good moral? Yes, based moral. But yeah, what I'm thinking about is I don't know if your moral position itself necessarily is what... right, maybe actually, yeah, because like it also depends, it's a combination of different things, right? So your moral perspective tells you how likely you are, for example, to cause harm to another person, right? Not how likely you are to cause it, but how you would justify wanting or not wanting to do something like that, right? And then there's a different part of your behavior which relates to how willing you are to follow societal norms and to follow the rules. So yeah, I guess moral nihilism could be seen as like a bit more fucked up in that situation. Yeah. If you think no moral framework is valid, wouldn't you just not give a shit about how to get others? I think about how to treat others. I think it depends on like you may think no moral framework is valid, but you will still like go to prison if you kill someone, right? You will still face the consequences if you rob someone, if you steal some shit. if you do horrible things to people, right? You will suffer the consequences of it. So I don't know how much it is about your moral framework and how much it is about the fact that we tend to punish people who go, people who do things that they are not supposed to do as normal members of society. It's like it reminds me of those like conversations we had these similar conversations in high school often, when I was in my edgy atheist phase. And people would be like, oh, if you're an atheist, like you don't fear the consequences of doing bad actions, so what makes you not do bad actions? And then we would have like whole debate days over like what really makes people not do bad things. Is it fear of a repercussion, or is it just not wanting to hurt someone? And then if it's fear of repercussion, are you really a good person? You know? A lot of harm done is completely legal. That's true. That is true. That is true. That is true. Yeah, I could see then. I could see why being morally nihilistic may lead someone to worse behavior. A lot of harm done really is illegal. If I just so happened to spot Putin out on the street in LA and I decided to murder him, do you think I would get charged? First of all, you would remove the satisfaction of watching that man rot in a jail cell for years. So, look, I would feel kind of bad about it, okay? But, you should report him to authorities. But, yeah, I think you would get charged. Because, allowing civilians to take justice in their own hands isn't something we necessarily should be normalizing. I don't want to get married, not having kids when there is going to be a population collapse, and I have an overall alternative lifestyle, so I'm immoral in those ways. I think your definition of an alternative lifestyle and my definition of an alternative lifestyle might be differing, you know, considering the fact that your alternative lifestyle goes against what we normally see as morally accepted behaviors. Because, like, for me, it doesn't necessarily have to go against those. I see the thing with, like, oh, I don't want kids, but there's going to be a population collapse, so I'm morally pure. Not even that. I don't know if, like, morally, if you should be obliged, in a way, to have kids just so your society doesn't collapse. I'm not sure where that would fall. You should get charged, but the outcome of the court can be different. A judge might dismiss your case or pardon given the circumstance, assuming the police arrest you to begin with. I feel like they would. I feel we shouldn't allow civilians to make calls like that. It would be, okay, there would be a question asked over like how much danger Putin himself has posed to you in exactly that situation. Another drone strike from Russian behind lines on the Russian airbase today. Hey, I saw someone posting about this, like how Ukrainians probably worked a lot to enable this. So I thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting thing. Wait, where do I have it? Where do I have it? Where do I have it? Fuck, I had it saved somewhere. He will get disappeared and get witness protection for a while, but he won't be in jail, you think? I wish. I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that. Where do I have it? Who the hell knows? Gonna find it. Gonna find it one day. But I do remember reading about how likely one of their own was paid to attack from behind, and how much cash money Ukraine must have probably given in order to make it happen. Yeah, somewhere. Somewhere. It's somewhere. It's somewhere. It reminded me I wanted to show you something. But ooh! Croatia! Croatia! Croatia, major international demining conference. Thank you, Planky. You are my best friend. You are the peacekeeper. You are the legend. First time Ukraine didn't take credit for it. Nice. Nice. Man, I'm so happy for that. I am so happy for that. I hope we do more of those.
Тактика организатора устроилась по классическому
Since Russians have unlocked the Molotov pact, the next few weeks could be really interesting.
Якщо підсумувати Шарпа, то диктатури є заручниками свого минулого. Їм складніше, ніж демократіям, пристосуватися до змін у суспільстві та світі. Особливо, якщо вони мають жорстку ідеологію. Мало того, коли небажані для диктаторів зміни все ж відбуваються, система намагається їх не помічати. Підлеглі через страх чи підлабузництво просто приховують факти та реальність від керівництва. Хрестоматійний приклад – особиста газета португальського диктатора Салазара, яку в останні роки його життя готували для того, щоб всемогутній президент не дізнався, що його відсторонили від влади, а американці побували на місяці. Та доволі очікуваним є те, що надмірний контроль бюрократичної системи не рятує від корупції та конфліктів всередині владних кіл, в яких часто головні рішення ухвалює невелика кількість людей, які, очевидно, не можуть бути компетентними в усіх питаннях. Тож зростає кількість управлінських помилок. Не кажучи вже про те, що автократія часто загострює національні, соціальні чи релігійні проблеми. Але найбільш критичною миттю для кожної диктатури є передача влади.
You say you're a moral nihilist, but you do have morals you follow. Wouldn't you still be able to be a moral nihilist, but just to follow the rules? Like you're not following the rules because you want to cause the least amount of harm or whatever, you're just following the rules because you don't want to be put in jail, prison, you don't want to face the consequences. You still could be like following some morals, right?
У майже половині випадків кінець режиму співпадає з відходом від влади правителя. Його відставки чи смерті, природної або не дуже. Це в демократіях працює хоч і одноманітний, але стабільний механізм оновлення влади. Натомість у диктатурах шляхи наступництва бувають різними, і вони не підлягають формальним правилам. В Україні можуть проводитися регулярні вибори, навіть з буцімто опозиційними кандидатами. Утім, всі заздалегідь знають, хто на них переможе. Якщо не брати до уваги монархії на кшталт Саудівської Аравії, то передача влади у спадок – це радше виняток для диктатур. Найвідомішим прикладом, звісно, є Північна Корея з її династією Кімів, що вже 3 покоління керують комуністичною диктатурою. Також варто згадати 2 покоління Асадів у Сирії та Алієвих
34 degrees still.
Часто диктатори бояться обирати собі наступника, адже той може передчасно захопити владу або ж спровокувати розкол еліт. А м'який трансфер влади за життя автократам легко може позбавити його залишків впливу.
Yeah, it's still 34.
Це сталося з кланом Назарбаєвих.
It's been 34 when I started the stream and it's still 34. It hasn't gone down at all.
Що вкотре нагадало диктаторам про необхідність триматися за владу до кінця свого життя.
Snake Noise 42, holy shit! Hope you're good, I hope you're good.
На жаль, смерть диктатора рідко завершується демократизацією. Історія говорить нам про те, що, скоріше за все, режим в тій чи іншій формі пануватиме й далі. Так, понад 2/3 автократій після Другої світової війни постали з інших недемократичних утворень. Адже будівництво вільного та відповідального суспільства – украй складний процес, і куди частіше все йде по інерції. Зайвий аргумент для тих, хто сподівається, що треба лише дочекатися смерті Путіна для корінних змін у Росії. Природна смерть правителя – найсприятливіший варіант для авторитарного режиму. З імовірністю 76% режим спокійно протримається щонайменше 5 років після неї.
42 and it's 8
Тоді як
p.m.
для
Holy shit.
інших способів відходу від влади цей показник більш ніж удвічі менший. Дуже часто після природної смерті диктатора його заступає компромісна особа, якою, на думку старої гвардії режиму, можна легко маніпулювати. І справді, що зробить колишній дантист або непомітний міністр планування? Існування організованої старої гвардії, партійної або військової, збільшує шанси на виживання диктатури після смерті лідера, адже саме вона обиратиме наступника. Тому, наприклад, смерті Сталіна чи Мао не стали критичними для червоних імперій, хоч ті і виглядали їхньою невіддільною частиною. Але ж ви увімкнули це відео не для того, щоб дізнатися, як диктатури живуть довго та щасливо. У книжці «Як працює диктатура» дослідники проаналізували 223 випадки загибелі автократій з 1946 по 2010 та поділили їх на 7 типових сценаріїв. Найбільш рідкісний – це колапс країни. Так сталося і з Сомалі, в якій після падіння комуністичного режиму у 91-му зникла централізована держава. Наступним за частотою йде іноземне втручання, як от ліквідація режиму Пола Пота в Камбоджі внаслідок інтервенцій сусіднього В'єтнаму. Те відчуття, коли ти настільки кривава комуністична диктатура, що тебе вирішила прибрати менш кривава комуністична диктатура. У 8% випадків змінюється ідентичність та правила всередині політичної еліти. Така собі повзуча зміна одного режиму на інший. Так сталося під час розпаду Югославії, коли на чолі Сербсько-Чорногорської держави лишилася колишня югославська верхівка. Зокрема, голову президії колишньої соціалістичної Сербії Слободана Мілошевича замінив ніхто інший, як Слободан Мілошевич. Тепер вже на посаді президента Сербії. Збройне повстання, що переростає в громадянську війну, теж поклало край 8%.
He didn't choose to do this. I don't want you to get the impression that he wanted to go from the president of Social Federalist Republic of Yugoslavia to Serbia. But yeah, it did happen. So he was a dictator, that his dictatorship crumbled, and then he remained a dictator just in another country. And then they kicked him out, so that was good. Greta was based from the start, my dude. Greta was fucking based from the start. I just think people hated on her anyways. Like for no fucking reason. No, you said 2026. That's it right now.
Найбільш поширені сценарії кінця диктатур.
No watering down.
Образ народного повстання став одним із найбільш упізнаваних сценаріїв кінця диктатури. Утім, від громадянських рухів та протестів впало менше 5%.
He was kicked out with the help of USA,
Пізнаваність цього варіанту можна пояснити тим, що народні повстання – це яскраві події, що демонструють можливість боротьби проти влади. Інколи вони мирні, як Оксамитова революція у колишній Чехословаччині, які вдалося мирно і без кровопролиття скинути радянську систему. А інколи вони пробігають за сценарієм у стилі Чаушеску, президента комуністичної Румунії. Геній Карпат, повноводний Дунай розуму, навколо якого існував культ особи, стрімголов утратив підтримку на тлі економічної кризи. Кульмінацією цього став масовий мітинг, де його освистали.
Damn.
За пару днів подружжя Чаушеску розстріляли. Важливим фактором успішності народного повстання є переконаність населення у тому, що перемога можлива, а участь у повстанні не є смертельно небезпечною. В іншому разі бажання безкоштовного проїзду та рішення перечекати в тихому місці буде переважати. Про що ми вже говорили у відео, що тримає вас поза політикою. Для самої ж диктатури лишається два шляхи: або піти на поступки і погодитись на спокійну зміну влади, або ж намагатися за будь-яку ціну вчепитися за неї.
О, Лукашенко.
Вибір між цими варіантами сильно залежить від рівня персоналізму автократа. Чим більше мотузків зосереджено в руках одного політика, тим більша ймовірність, що після втрати влади на одному з них його і повісять. Тому такі лідери більш схильні триматися до останнього.
Окей, fair. Good way to explain it.
Вибори існують в більшості автократій і навіть виконують там чимало функцій, серед яких, щоправда, немає головної – зміни влади. Вибори використовуються для закріплення легітимності, демонстрації законності та для мобілізації лояльного населення.
Вы меня рассмешили.
Тож результати виборів у диктатурах показують не стільки волю населення,
Don't
скільки
all of them have a
наявні
fucking huge
ресурси
palace?
чинної влади. Однак саме вибори становлять другу за частотою причину кінця диктатур. Як не дивно, деякі диктатори не чекають, поки їх скине повстання чи іноземні війська, а власноруч демонтують існуючу систему за допомогою виборів та демократизації. Саме це сталося у Тайвані, коли президент Лі Денхуей скасував тимчасові положення проти комуністичного заколоту, що давали його партії Гоміндан владу в обхід конституції. Тимчасові положення, на хвилинку, встигли проіснувати вже 40 років. Після цього Лі підтримав проведення перших вільних президентських виборів, на яких переміг. Але вже на наступних виборах виграв кандидат від опозиції. Уперше за півстоліття, що стало остаточним кінцем авторитаризму у Тайвані. Звісно, диктатури погоджуються на вибори не від солодкого життя, а від зростаючої напруги у суспільстві та своєму оточенні. А проведення незалежних виборів стає можливістю зберегти бодай частину впливу. Прикладом чого є чилійський генерал Аугусто Піночет. На кінець 80-х його режим зазнав економічних та соціальних проблем. Рівень підтримки ззовні та всередині країни сильно впав. Після поразки на плебісциті Піночет стрімко втратив політичну владу. Та попри це він ще 8 років лишався головнокомандуючим армії та зберігав чималий вплив на події в країні. Наприкінці життя колишній диктатор все ж зазнав судових переслідувань, але помер до винесення вироку. Не найгірший кінець для диктатора.
Yeah, I guess.
Перевороти є найпоширенішим сценарієм як утвердження диктатури, так і її завершення. Цей спосіб вимагає найменшої кількості людей. Інколи достатньо лише кількох впливових спільників. Водночас близько половини спроб переворотів зазнають поразки. Тому переворот – це крайній захід у ситуаціях, коли всі інші кроки здаються безперспективними. Зазвичай перевороти тривають недовго і супроводжуються відносно невеликими жертвами, якщо порівнювати з іноземним втручанням чи громадянською війною. Найпоказовішою в цьому є безкровна португальська революція Гвоздик у 1974 році, яку провели опозиційні офіцери. Також це один з прикладів, коли переворот призвів до демократизації країни. Більш імовірною розв'язкою є прихід до влади нового авторитарного режиму, що неодноразово відчув на собі Афганістан. Спочатку місцеву монархію скинув переворот 73-го року, очолений, як не дивно, двоюрідним братом короля, який через 5 років сам став жертвою перевороту. Тепер вже червоних, які встановили Демократичну Республіку Афганістан, проти лідера якої теж підготували переворот, поки той цілувався з Брежнєвим. Історія на цьому не завершилася, адже новий очільник Афганістану пробув на посаді лише 104 дні і був вбитий під час радянської операції. Такий от колообіг амбіцій та політичного насильства, що не спинився до сьогодні.
Бра.
Від самого початку повномасштабного вторгнення українці дуже активно обговорюють варіанти падіння режиму Путіна або розпаду Росії. Але широко анонсованого інсайдами, викриттями та зливами державного перевороту
произошел некий переворот внутрі Кремля.
Не відбулося. Хоч скільки ми
чули,
що в Кремлі шукають наступ та виїзду хоч скільки-небудь опозиційного населення, спинилися і розмови про народне повстання чи революцію. Що ж до виборів, я не бачу сенсу будувати якісь примарні надії.
There's not gonna be a revolution.
Так само, як і з
There's not going to be elections either.
То чого ж нам чекати?
It's like what's gonna be there? Who the fuck knows?
Теперішній авторитарний режим в Росії, як і всі інші, не буде вічним. Але з досвіду як і інших автократій, так і самої російської історії, вкрай сумнівно, що система обрання влади в країні-агресорі докорінно зміниться. Але тема життя та смерті диктатури повинна турбувати нас не лише тому, що
Yeah, basically, there's no hope. There's no hope. We can just go and do the Belgrade of 1999 to Moscow right now, because what's the point? What's the point in trusting them more? Hey, what's this? US government approved a deal with Poland for the supply of party attack helicopters? 96! Poland's gonna buy 96 of them? Holy shit, Poles. Holy shit, Poles. That is a lot. Let me see what this is. When the Soviets actually invaded Iran? Oh no, it reminds me of that video. We watched a video yesterday on like Soviets trying to, not Soviets, but like Russians, trying to go all the way around Africa to reach Japan, to fight Japan imperialist navy there, and the trip was horrible. And then when they finally managed to reach the Japanese, they were destroyed. They were fucked completely. They had no chance. So I kind of wonder about this.
That the Russians attacked was not the base of the Afghan Mujahideen. In fact, this object was not even located in Afghanistan.
Where's
the
my...
base that the Soviet troops destroyed turned out to be an ordinary asphalt factory in Iran.
Oh. Would have been 100, but I lost 4 down the back of the Soviet.
1979, the Soviets found themselves in a somewhat unusual combat situation. The 40th Army,
Classic USA, classic, isn't it?
arm of the Soviet occupational force in Afghanistan, was a strong and well-trained army by Soviet standards. However, it quickly became apparent that the army was not prepared for the type of war it had to fight. Unlike the classic warfare that the Soviet troops were primarily trained for, there was no clear front line in Afghanistan. The Afghan Mujahideen were perfectly aware that they had zero chance in direct confrontations with the Soviets, so they relied heavily on guerrilla tactics. They disrupted supply lines, conducted raids and ambushes, and then quickly withdrew to their hidden bases. Such raids slowly drained the resources of the Soviets, and one of their responses was an attempt to eliminate the problem at its root. They decided to cut off the Mujahideen's access to weapons supplies by targeting their caravans, transit bases, and training camps. One such base was located near the abandoned settlement of Rabati Jali, right at the junction of the Afghan, Iranian, and Pakistani borders. The first information about the large base of Mujahideen at Rabati Jali was received by Soviet military intelligence in early 1982. According to their agent's report, the base contained warehouses with weapons and ammunition, as
video,
well as
thank you.
drugs, which the Mujahideen exchanged for weapons from nearby Iran and Pakistan. The base was guarded by roughly 60 people. However, a large group of Mujahideen were regularly stationed at the base, undergoing military training or arriving for new weapons and ammunition. Most
I'm seeing it. Nice, thank you.
Was information about 2,000 wooden crates containing
I've saved the
based on the description, this could
Telegram one for yesterday. We didn't watch it.
Presumably delivered from Egypt. The intelligence about
I had another one I wanted to show you also from Discord, and then we didn't watch that one either.
In mid-March,
Do you even have it? I don't.
Orders to prepare an operation to destroy the base at Rabati Jali. The operation to destroy the base at Rabati Jali was given high importance and received a very promising and set for success codename Saus. Leadership of the operation was assigned to no less than General Vladimir Vinokurov, deputy commander of the 40th Army. Another fact that showed the importance of the mission was that all the preparations were completed in total secrecy, and the operation was to be carried out using only the Soviet military without any involvement of the Afghan army or Afghan intelligence agency HUD. According to the plan, the operation would start early in the morning of April 5, 1982, with an airstrike by 12 Sukhoi Su-17 fighter bombers to suppress the air defenses of the base as well as the outside guard. Immediately after the airstrike, helicopters were to deliver assault regiments, whose task would be to capture all the dominant heights around the base, launch the attack and eliminate the remains of the Mujahideen soldiers inside, destroy the drugs and weapons warehouses, and of course, seize the manpads. To complete all these tasks, the assault groups were given 6 hours, after which they would be evacuated by helicopter. To execute this mission, Soviet command allocated 3 airborne assault regiments, 1 motorized rifle company, and a company of Spetsnaz GRU, all in all more than 600 personnel. No less impressive was the aviation group, which consisted of the 280th Separate Helicopter Regiment, commanded by Colonel Valery Savchenko. In addition to 61 Mi-8 helicopters in various modifications, Savchenko also received under his command 18 gigantic Mi-6 helicopters from the 335th Regiment. It was decided that the Mi-24 attack helicopter would not be used in the operation due to its limited combat range. The distance to the target was far,
what a ridiculous looking thing.
The Mi-24 would require multiple refueling points, which would only magnify the already complicated matter
How
of
horrible they are.
For the Mi-8 and Mi-6 helicopters, a transit point was created.
Have you seen the double one?
From the target, with ground prepared
it genuinely scares me.
And refueling. A few days before
has like 2 rotating
thingies
materials
as well as huge rubber fabric containers filled with fuel. The preparations for the operation began on March 30, 1982. All the equipment was carefully examined and, if necessary, quickly repaired. The attack Mi-8s received extra armament and ammunition. On the contrary, the troop-carrying Mi-8s were lightened by removing the defensive machine guns, which allowed them to take on board an extra trooper. It was also ordered that red stars and tail numbers on all helicopters must be painted over, an order whose purpose still remains unclear today, since the Soviets were the only power around that had such helicopters. All in all, the aviation group consisted of 79 helicopters and 38 aircraft.
Teams.
RIP
Teams, he was great.
To provide air cover, and an Antonov An-30 carrying General Tabunchikov, who was to oversee the operation from the air. Direct command of the operation was entrusted to the deputy commander of the Polish Army Air Force, Colonel Vladimir Aprelkin, who, according to some accounts, was promised the rank of general and the Order Hero of the USSR if the operation was a success. At dawn on April 4th, the whole helicopter group headed to the transit refueling point. However, the relocation didn't go smoothly due to a sandstorm in the area, which significantly reduced visibility. For safety reasons, the group had to break down into smaller divisions, which significantly delayed the time to get to the
These things always pick up after a famous person dies.
Landed at dusk. The group spent the night manually refueling the helicopters until
Have you seen the news on Twitter?
At 6 a.m.,
a bunch of rich people are trying to sue whoever made those monkey NFTs because they claimed that monkey NFTs are a good investment and they won't.
At the very same time, the Antonov An-30 with General Tabunchikov took off and headed to the target area. At 6:40 a.m., 2 Sukhoi Su-17s found the Roboty-Jali base and marked it with 4 luminous parachute bombs. And in the next 15 minutes, 12 Su-17s struck the Roboty-Jali base with bombs and missiles. And it is then that a chain of unforeseen events occurred that, combined with some ridiculous mistakes, made Operation South go south. What happened was that the luminous parachute bombs were dropped roughly 400 meters from the target, which wasn't a big deal for the Su-17 pilots who were familiar with the area. However, by the time the airstrike was completed and the helicopters were approaching the area, the desert wind had carried the parachute bombs way further from the target, right into Iranian territory. The leading command helicopter with Colonel Aprelkin saw the luminous bombs and then headed towards those bombs, leading with them the entire helicopter group. After a short time, Captain Serebryny noted that it looked like they had crossed the border of Afghanistan, but Colonel Aprelkin insisted on continuing the flight. The captain tried to convince the colonel that they were already in Iran, but the colonel gave a direct order and even marked on the map with his finger the place he thought they were. Meanwhile, the helicopter piloted by Major Nikolai Babenko reported that they had discovered an asphalt road on their maps. There was a bus peacefully driving down the road whose passengers were not reacting to the overflying helicopters in any way. But strangest of all were the wooden poles along the road, which told the pilots there was no way they were in Afghanistan. Wood was extremely scarce in the Afghan desert and wore its weight in gold. If this was Afghanistan, those poles would have been chopped down long ago. But the moment the pilots were coming to this realization, the group saw a compound ahead of them which matched the description of their target. There were warehouses in the center with guard towers along the sides, and Colonel Aprelkin made the decision to execute the assault operation. Strangely, the absence of any signs of destruction from the preceding airstrike somehow didn't confuse Colonel Aprelkin. The landing started at 7:03 and lasted for 17 minutes. More than 50 Mi-8s landed and stretched across the desert in a line several kilometers wide. Heavy Mi-6 landed nearby and started the refueling process, while assault groups attacked the base with machine guns and mortar fire, gradually destroying the buildings and equipment on the base. For a moment it may have seemed a perfectly planned and executed operation, if not for one thing. The object under attack was not the Mujahideen base at Roboty-Jali, but an ordinary asphalt factory in the Iranian city of Harmak. It was pure luck that at the time the factory was still closed and had no workers on site.
Okay,
and
no workers.
The mighty Soviet military became 2 unlucky security guards. Meanwhile, First Lieutenant Ryabashapko from the An-30 with the General Tabunchikov on board had sorted out the situation and immediately contacted the helicopter group.
You are 12 kilometers away from the target in the Iranian territory. Urgently evacuate the troops and leave the area.
The helicopters received the message but suddenly heard a loud roar of engines. At first they thought this was the MiG-23 from their air cover having fun, but these were Iranian F-4 Phantoms. The Iranians passed over the landed helicopter group on their first approach. However, then they turned around and fired 2 Sidewinder missiles. Neither of them hit the helicopters, with one hitting the ground and exploding, while the second one fell flat and simply broke, becoming a trophy for the Soviet soldiers. At this time, a second pair of Phantoms approached the area and started shooting the helicopters with their guns. The Soviet MiGs, meanwhile, reported that they had missile lock on the Phantoms, but were under strict orders not to engage in the fight by General Tabunchikov, who had
can you please chat in English?
Force shot down over Iran would definitely lead to a huge international scandal. Meanwhile, the Iranians regrouped and continuously watered the helicopters with their guns. 2 helicopters were destroyed, while several others received various damage. Fortunately, there were no human casualties, except that one of the helicopter pilots, First Lieutenant Trudov, was slightly wounded. Not long afterwards, an Iranian motorized battalion arrived and pulled up to the Soviet helicopter landing zone. However, by that time, most of the Soviet assault troops had already been evacuated from the area, and the rest of them had to quickly leave Iranian territory at gunpoint.
Bro.
While most of the Soviet troops were evacuated from Iranian territory on the helicopters, some of the regiments had to leave on their own feet. Roughly 3 hours after they landed in Iran, they crossed the border, and then 2 hours later they joined the rest of the troops near the Rabatijali base. Yeah, they still had to complete their mission. At 12:30 p.m. the assault group completed reconnaissance of the base and contacted the airstrike group. At 2:30 p.m. the Su-17s conducted a second airstrike on the Mujahideen base, and at 3 p.m. the assault team launched their attack on the base. By 7 p.m. it was all over, with the Rabatijali base being completely destroyed. However, with the second attack there was no longer an element of surprise. The Mujahideen managed to safely move out most of the drugs and weapons. The manpads were not found at the base either.
Unless you're talking about how great Croatia is, that's true. You can praise Croatia in any language existing. But you know, when it comes to actually asking questions, having a conversation, I prefer English. I don't feel like translating every message. If you start a conversation, it keeps on going. Like, I know what he asked, but still, I'm gonna be translating more messages. You wanna have a proper talk, you can switch to English.
Called for a couple Mi-6 fuel tankers to urgently fly from Kandahar. One of those tankers, while on the way to the refueling point, ran into an ambush and was shot down from the ground. The crew managed to land the damaged helicopter and were soon rescued. However, they had to destroy their Mi-6 before leaving, adding yet another loss to the toll of Operation Souse. Interestingly enough, by the time this happened, the Iranian government had already issued a note of protest to the USSR, and the Soviet government made an official apology for the incident. Some accounts state that the Soviet government also issued a lifetime pension to the families of the slain factory guards.
Do we believe in that? They're not giving pensions to families of their own soldiers. I mean, actually, yeah.
There is always the possibility that a small accidental event will ruin all your plans. Of course, on top of that was the fact that the Antonov An-30 could have more accurately controlled and guided the helicopter group from above. It was also unforgivable that the entire helicopter group had blindly followed the leading helicopter without conducting navigation themselves and while ignoring the surrounding landmarks. But the main problem, of course, was the blunt ignorance of Colonel Aprelkin.
I still have a video saved from yesterday, we haven't watched it, on why Russian Navy sucks. We watched one video on why the Navy sucks, we haven't seen the other one.
About their current location, which later saved the captain during the investigation.
Kinda weird how stupid they were. How stupid they were in so many situations, and still we kept on glorifying them. Isn't that weird? Like, whenever you see something about Russian actions worldwide, it's always showing them in the dumbest possible light. Croatian is the best Croatian one, Alan. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Thank you very much. We are amazing indeed. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I wanted to click on the video. I wanted to click on the video in Discord. You have to see something very, very wholesome. Very, 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 very wholesome. It's about Robotina civilians who have been liberated. They are being evacuated. There's several videos on this. I think I saved this one specifically. Is this the edit? Yeah, this one. We go to another place. Sir, your next message is gonna be in English, or you will be timed out from the chat, okay? If you want to have a proper conversation, you will be speaking in the language that the streamer speaks in. I will not be translating your messages. Translation, noise.
Дрожжи, конечно.
Спасибо.
Man.
Конечно.
This is very loud.
Хотілося б бачити, щоб це все було в кращих умовах, а не в таких.
Привіт. Сонечко моє. Як ми скучили за вами. Алло, дочечка, алло.
Привіт, куколка. Доця, нас вивезли, доця. Я знаю, мам, я знаю. Не плач. Ми вже все, ми вже вдома.
Та думаю, що да, в порядку. Думаю, що скоро побачимося.
Скільки вам років? 52 було влітку.
Як святкували день народження?
Я вам скажу, мабуть, будуть шикарні подарунки. Мені подарували пиріжки з шовковицею, подарували хлібини, подарувала, мама принесла букет троянд, а кум приніс пів'ящика бубликів, які знайшов. Боже, пані. Мама надіюсь, що прийдуть наші і все буде добре. Все буде добре. Ну ви знаєте, ми так довго чекали, що сьогодні прийшли неочікувано. Ми навіть не могли повірити, що це наші. Це такі молодці.
Man, that's beautiful.
Ми дуже вдячні хлопцям. Що з нами скільки сиділи, прикривали нас, чекали, ми в підвалі спочатку чекали, поки за нами ця техніка приїде, чудо-техніка.
Is it peaking again? Oh.
А де ви там ховалися?
Man, that is beautiful. That is fucking great. Oh, I miss these types of videos. There used to be so many of them previously. Man, I can't wait to see more of these. This is still the same one, right? Does it end? Yeah, they end on the same note, right? Even the cat! Man. Oh man, that is amazing. That is fucking amazing. Oh yeah, definitely. Holy shit, my man, holy shit. Izium one, when Russians were fucking panicking, my man. I also saved this. No, Ukrainian counteroffensive is going okay. The counteroffensive is going okay. They're being very how do I say this? They're being very careful about how many people they're willing to sacrifice in order to do this, which is definitely the smart way to do things. It is taken, how to say this? I see why, from the media perspective, it seems slower than expected. I don't really know if it's like slower than expected from normal people's perspective. But yeah, I wouldn't really agree with the idea it's not going well, to be honest. Like, they're getting gains still in multiple directions. Russians are still panicking in multiple directions again. So far, I don't think we can pretend as if the offensive isn't doing anything, especially if you look at Russian reactions to it. It's a very hard fight, definitely. Oh, definitely. But like, Russia is, as much as they suck, my dude, as much as they suck, okay, it's a strong opponent. They do have a lot of soldiers that are willing to sacrifice. They're a strong opponent. I don't think anyone was really surprised by the fact that, you know, they're willing to sacrifice a lot of people. I don't think anyone was surprised by the defense lines and everything, so. Do you think it's normal to support the Nazi state and raise money for weapons used to kill children, women and the elderly? No, of course not. That's why I think all Russians should be put to Hague. They do a lot of fundraisers to collect money for their military. And no, I don't think it's normal for them to be supporting their military. I don't think it's normal for them to be volunteering for their military. I don't think it's normal for them to pretend like this is acceptable in any sort of a way. So, of course not. I don't think it's normal to support a country invading its neighbor. Not at all. Better not underestimated? Yeah. It was an interesting NAFO conversation months ago, though. Which, like, I think fully, how would I say this? Fully made me think about this. About how, you know, as much as we like making jokes about Russians being stupid as fuck, and they are stupid as fuck, right? They're fucking dumb. But at the same time, you have to understand that they are still a very strong opponent, right? Okay, the fact that they're dumb as shit, the fact that they are dumb as rocks, doesn't mean at all that they are not a dangerous opponent, right? It doesn't mean that you can just take them lightly. They're willing to kill a lot of their own people for this. They're willing to sacrifice a lot. They have a lot of old Soviet weapons, old Soviet ammunition, that they can just be chunking onto the front line, right? Nothing of this requires some sort of exceptional intelligence out of Russians. Nothing of this requires any sort of exceptional ability from the Russian people. They still are dumb as rocks, but they do have the advantage in having a lot of people and having a lot of ammo that they didn't really need to work hard to get, right? So it's important to know how dangerous they are. What? I wish that you too were bombed with democratic American bombs, as it has already been with your country? What? We weren't bombed with American bombs. What are you talking about? When did we get bombed by American bombs? Do you think it was a mistake not to attempt a counteroffensive before the fortification and mines were complete? I think they were unprepared. I don't think they could have. I don't think they could have started a counteroffensive. I think now it's going way slower, and I think now I'm kinda salty about the fact that the West didn't help them a lot more. I think if we talk about mistakes regarding counteroffensive, it's a mistake of the West to not give Ukrainians a spot. That's the mistake. But I don't think Ukrainians made a mistake in not doing the counteroffensive sooner. I don't think they had a chance to do it. What do you mean, why back a losing horse? It's not about... This isn't a horse race. One nation is invading the other one. The invasion is fully unjustified. This isn't a horse race. This isn't a football game or whatever. One nation is invading the other one. No. Russia ambushed Ukraine and used the land taken by the ambush to build a year's worth of defensive lines. The border war is going well with all that considered. Yeah, that too. You have AFU, which worked with Soviet equipment for all the time, now having to use the Western equipment, but with Eastern tactics. This causes issues. Yeah, it was at the start of the invasion, this is of the counteroffensive, this is what we've seen, right? When they went into like a row, and they stumbled upon a Russian minefield, and a lot of the equipment was destroyed by Russians. And then they changed tactics later, right? That was, I think, kind of... I remember Dennis analyzing this very, very strongly about like how much of a failure it was, the fact that Ukrainians didn't allow the leadership to be someone who is actually trained in how to use these new sorts of tanks and how to use the newer tactics. They were still relying on like old Soviet tactics, right? So it was a problem, definitely. I do think it's getting much better, especially, you know, considering the fact that Ukraine is doing all right so far. They're doing all right so far. I do think they learned how to do better, but it definitely was a problem. So yeah, overall, I'm quite GG with the way it's going. But yeah, what I wanted to show you was this. Russia is hiring 500 Serbian private soldiers for immediate deployment in Ukraine. According to French intelligence services, citing Russian opposition, which, you know, never trust Russian opposition, it is expected that by September 1st, several hundred recruits from the Balkans will arrive at a temporary camp in the Moscow region. In addition to the approximately 50 Serb fighters already recruited, the contingent is expected to grow to 500 and be quickly sent along with Russian soldiers. To accommodate them, a Serbian unit was created as part of a 106 Guards Airborne Division. Now, allegedly, a network of Russian Serbian figures had been preparing the operation since May on Russian initiative. My dude. My dude. You want them employed in your town? Who is them? His mom still won't let him use the computer, but he says he's saving his allowance to buy his own. Man, I forgot about that man fully. He's still alive? Holy shit. Holy shit, impressive. What? Fair. The recruits are mostly, listen, Serbian citizens and ethnic Serbs from neighboring countries. Between mid-July and mid-August, 50 candidates were selected and brought to Russia by commercial flights in groups of 2 or 3 under the guise of a contract with a front construction company. The person in charge of project planning and logistics is a Balkan national residing in Russia. An ethnic Serb from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Davor Savicic, is well known in Russia. Did you just use spherical? Spherical. For that insult, you're getting banned from the chat. Like, there's an amount of stupidity I'm allowing, but I don't deal well with Romani discrimination in my chat, and yeah, I don't think anyone should. He was a member of former Yugoslav leader Milosevic's unofficial special forces and fought with the Wagner Group in Ukraine in 2014 and in Syria after 2016. You know what this means? You know what this means? Milosevic's unofficial special forces? Man was fighting with Arkan. Savicic was fighting with fucking Arkan. That's what it means. This is basically a situation where Serbian war criminals are getting a little bout of nostalgia. Oh, give me a sec. It's a situation where Serb war criminals are having a bout of nostalgia for doing war crimes, and then because they are feeling nostalgic for doing war crimes, they have decided to go and to fight for Russia in order to do more war crimes. Which, you know what this means? It means we are about, I want to say, a month away from Ceca herself traveling to Russia to offer her pussy to Putin. About a month away. Like, mark my fucking words, you're gonna see that woman traveling all the way there, okay? The Arkan spirit has awoken in Serb war criminals, and now they see Russia as new war criminal empire. Not easy to get banned here. I'm really, I don't like fucking, how would I say this? I don't like normalizing discrimination of Romani. It's been a topic that's been really close to me ever since we started doing the European Union projects, and then I learned a lot about, you know, projects around me and how we are as countries in European Union, how horribly we are mistreating these people. It's not really something that I want to allow or to have any sort of, what would be the word? Tolerance for it in chat, you know? Who was bombed with radioactive bombs? What are you talking about? When were we bombed with radioactive bombs? I'm not sure you know what you're talking about. Are you confusing several historical events? Because that's what it seems to be. That's what it seems to be. I'm not sure if you're like confusing the 1999 bombing of Belgrade with Croatia? Do you think Belgrade is in Croatia? Is that what you think? And then you talk about radioactive bombs, which I'm not sure what you are referring to there. But then, like, you're talking about Nazis, which, like, the last time any part of Yugoslavia really had Nazism present on a large scale was during World War II, and then we had partisans killing all of them. No man, just Croatia never got bombed. Croatia didn't get bombed by Americans. It's not me being stupid here. Croatia never got bombed by Americans. I think you may not know that Croatia and Serbia are not the same country. I'm assuming that's the problem we're having in this. But also I have to leave for a second. I have to go unlock the doors outside. So I'm probably gonna leave you. I'm gonna leave you with a tiny little video. Let me see what I wanna play for you. What is hopefully not gonna make some of you people become weird as fuck. Fuck, was that recommended on Russia's disappearing generals?
First Prigozhin.
Oh shit, we could play that. Oh, we could play that. He must think you're Russian? Could be that. Could be that, I would guess. Wojta Yusek. But yeah, I'm gonna be back in a second. I'm just running downstairs really quickly. So, leaving the chat in your hands. Okay? Leaving the chat in your hands. I am going to be... Skadefron's chat is bitching about me, by the way. I am gonna be leaving the PC for a sec. So I'm just gonna open the chat on my phone just in case. Just in case. Because I don't trust you people. Okay, nice. Okay, nice. I actually can properly protect this. This is good. So yeah. How far is your door? Not really far. It's just downstairs. I have to kind of get out. So not too far, but be right back and learn about Russia's disappearing generals.
Was supposed to end up in Russia's neighbor and ally Belarus, but was instead reported on by Russian media as having shown up at his business offices in the Russian city of St. Petersburg. Then news broke that not just Prigozhin, but his senior lieutenants have met with Vladimir Putin personally in a meeting that, as far as everybody can tell, everyone left alive. Shortly afterward, photographs emerged from a purported Russian raid on Prigozhin's mansion, also in St. Petersburg, showing Prigozhin wearing a variety of odd disguises, including long beards and stick-on moustaches. And you might at this point be thinking, surely we're making this up, but we aren't. No. And just days later, as Vladimir Putin took to Russian state media and proclaimed that the Wagner Group had never existed as a legal entity within Russia at all, another image began to circulate of Prigozhin sitting in a tent in little more than his underwear. At the same time, Prigozhin's so-called internet research agency, basically a troll factory working on social media and news websites, appears to have come under control of Russian authorities and now works to actively flood Russian social media platforms with criticisms of their former boss. Even amidst what appears to be Russia's attempts to discredit Prigozhin or perhaps portray him as an eccentric, we've got to actually stress that we don't know whether any of these appearances or statements are legitimate. His travels to St. Petersburg are catalogued in reports issued by Russian state media. It's exceedingly difficult to determine when any pictures of Prigozhin were taken, even by examining metadata, and although the movements of his personal jet are easier to confirm, there's no real way to verify his presence on board. And of course, this doesn't even broach the subject of the incongruence between these apparent attempts to tarnish Prigozhin's image and the clear and starkly contrasting implications that would come from him traveling around Russia as a free man or even having face-to-face meetings with Putin himself. But one thing that's substantially more conclusive is a video that circulated on Russian Telegram channels on July 19th of this year, in which a shadowy figure believed to be Prigozhin is depicted in a Wagner camp in Belarus. Although the video is shot in low light with little visible of Prigozhin except his silhouette, the combination of his profile, his voice, his mannerisms, and his surroundings, recognizable for military analysts familiar with the camp, would suggest that Prigozhin is indeed the man featured in the video. During the clip, Prigozhin denounces the situation on Russia's front lines in Ukraine, but says nothing against his longtime enemies, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu or General Valery Gerasimov. Just as important as what he doesn't say is what he does. That the Wagner Group will pivot towards strengthening its long-time operations in Africa and elsewhere while avoiding Ukraine. Perhaps that will be Prigozhin's place now, an exile leading an army of exiles. Although we can't quite confirm outright whether he was depicted in the video, it appears more than likely not. And during the video, he also appeared to resolve questions about another disappeared Russian military leader, Dmitry Utkin. While Prigozhin is the face of the Wagner Group, it's long been Dmitry Utkin who runs the group behind the scenes. It's even named after his personal call sign, Wagner. As a military leader, Utkin stays almost completely out of the spotlight, due in part to some aspects of his appearance, including Nazi tattoos across his body that make him a somewhat less palatable option to represent Wagner. Before July the 19th, Utkin hadn't even made a public appearance within the last several years, but the aftermath of Wagner's coup attempt appears to have brought him, however briefly, back into the light. In the July 19th video, Prigozhin introduces an unnamed, silhouetted figure as the commander and the person who gave us the name Wagner, a description that can only really apply to Utkin. In the weeks after Wagner's march on Moscow, Utkin's fate, too, has been in question. After all, if he's the battlefield commander that Wagner says he is, then it would have been his personal responsibility to lead Wagner's column to Moscow. But his absence after the coup has been spoken about much less frequently, partly because he's lesser known and partly because he's never been visible at all. Now that he seems to have shown up on video, he too appears to have escaped reprisal thus far. But not all of Prigozhin's supporters have been so lucky, and especially not those who've explicitly sworn loyalty to Russia's Ministry of Defense. Meet Sergei Surovikin, a man who got his early start during a 1991 coup d'etat attempt in Moscow that we've already covered on this channel, where Surovikin made his name by commanding the only unit of the Russian military to have killed civilian protesters. In the 2010s, Surovikin oversaw Russia's destruction by air of the Syrian city of Aleppo, including devastating and deliberate attacks on civilian targets. He commanded troops who deployed sarin gas. His fighters were involved with attacks on civilians in the Russian region of Chechnya, and in 2017 he earned Russia's highest military honor, the Hero of Russia medal bestowed by Putin himself. In Ukraine, he spent months overseeing the entire Russian invasion, and since January he's been a right-hand man to another figure that we'll be discussing, General Valery Gerasimov. Surovikin is a friend not just to Prigozhin, but to Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. He's got a reputation for personally beating up his own subordinates, and he's perhaps best known by his nickname, General Armageddon. But General Armageddon hasn't been seen since the day of Prigozhin's fateful coup attempt, and Western sources report that this might be because Surovikin had advance warning about the coup before it took place. In the wake of the march on Moscow, Surovikin was alleged as having been regarded as a secret VIP member of the Wagner Group for years before the coup, even before being granted a Wagner registration number. Although other Russian military and intelligence leaders are suspected to have been granted this same rather dubious honor, Surovikin is the only one who's been named, and it seems very clear that he may be in a little bit of hot water. As the Wagner coup attempt was ongoing, Surovikin appeared in a video directed squarely at Prigozhin. Holding a machine gun and appearing nervous as he spoke, General Armageddon pleaded for Prigozhin to end his assault. His seemingly scripted remarks and his halting delivery as he gave them led to widespread speculation that he may have been coerced or compelled to create the video, and well, then he disappeared completely. In fact, he hasn't been seen or heard from at all since that video was made. The closest thing we've come to actual information on his whereabouts comes from Russian Duma legislator Andrei Kartopalov, who heads the Duma's Defense Committee. When asked by a reporter about Surovikin's whereabouts, Kartopalov responded, "Surovikin is currently resting. He is not available for now." And if you, dear graphics viewer, might feel that the subtext here is a bit sinister, well, you're not the only one. Since then, Russian prison organizations have denied that Surovikin has been imprisoned, and his daughter was allegedly interviewed on Telegram, claiming that she was in contact with her father and that he was not detained. Now, the veracity of this recording and any circumstances behind its creation are completely unknown. Unless Surovikin pops up between the time this video is recorded and when it's released, there's no evidence to suggest that he's survived at all. If he has, he may very well be detained indefinitely. This is the sort of thing that's not unheard of for Russian dissenters. But in the case of a general who's committed some of the worst atrocities of the modern era and been thanked for his work by Vladimir Putin, his disappearance is a statement of exceptional magnitude. If that same Vladimir Putin is now willing to make an example of him, probably in order to tamp down on dissent overall, then the underlying message is unmistakable. Nobody betrays Putin and gets away with it. And Surovikin isn't the only former Putin ally to have been punished after the coup. See the case of Major General Ivan Popov, commander of the 58th Army in Ukraine's Zaporizhia region. Popov is an anomaly among Russian generals, partly because of his unusual levels of closeness with the troops and a relative unwillingness to pay for his battlefield results with Russian lives. After Prigozhin's coup attempt, Popov loudly voiced his criticism of Putin's military leadership, specifically their failure to provide radar technology to track enemy artillery attacks and his troops' urgent need for rest after constant fighting. Within a day of his statements, Popov would find himself
here.
in a move that international
I was downstairs. And I unlocked the doors and everything. It really sat on my ass and joined the chat. And it just like came into my brain like, Vicky, you're not supposed to be on chat here. That's not what's supposed to be happening.
Because of Prigozhin's own willingness to rail against the Russian MOD senior leaders directly, Popov's public complaints have been treated not as a request for better support, but a point that other disaffected leaders could repeat and amplify if they're not discreet.
How do I do the thing?
Although his requests appear to be consistent with his own prior leadership style, Popov's dismissal strongly suggests that Minister Shoigu and his inner circle would prefer to ensure
how do I do the thing?
Comes around, you can give voice to the same frustrations that Prigozhin could. But there's still one more general that we've got to discuss, and lest you think that our entire story here is a purge done by Putin's highest-ranking officials, because one of them appears
I'm trying to figure out how to do something.
Well. That would be Valery Gerasimov, commander of Russia's war in Ukraine.
OnlyFans? I've got Twitch. It's basically OnlyFans.
Of Prigozhin, and one of the 3 men in Russia with the ability to launch the country's nuclear arsenal. Is the man in charge of operations?
Let me see if I can do this. Astro, I'm using you as a test subject, I'm sorry. It works. Grackle. Let me see if I can do this. I can. I just myself messaged in Skadefron's chat, and Grackle wrote a message saying that he got banned from my stream because he said that something about USA also. Oh, Wikidex banned me for saying America is funding Ukraine's government. It's the person we had yesterday. I was like, damn, I need to check out which idiot that was. He joined the stream by just writing Z. He joined by just writing Z. Then he denied the fact that Zelensky is a fucking celebrity. No, this is not ban appeals. It's a person who has been lying about me in other chats. So I went to check what he was saying, and yeah. My man, it's ridiculous, fucking ridiculous. Ban confirmation. Yeah, this is ban confirmation. Base way of saying it. Yeah. It's not a ban appeal. It's confirming that the person deserved to get fucking banned. You want to appeal your ban? I'm sorry, you can't. I think I have like two ban appeals somewhere. I was cleaning out the other ones, and I think I have like 2 unbanned requests. That's the word for it. I think I have like 2 left. Yeah. Should've just like denied these 2. I usually just deny them. What was that one? Oh yeah, this one was just spammy. Yeah, we're not gonna unban you. What was this one? Same thing. Yep. See, it's like the ban confirmation is the proper way to say it. Oh, I used light mode because I don't even know why. I was like, oh damn, I need to make an overlay to be like a bit lighter than what it used to be, and then I want to use the light mode Twitch chat to kind of like show it on the overlay, and then I've just never used the overlay. Genius, fucking genius. But it's still in light mode. I don't even like use that thing a lot. You didn't find where the ban appeal is located. Oh, I don't even know where that is. I don't know how you send those. I don't know. I've never been banned from chats I care about. Grisha banned me from his chat. I'm banned from Grisha's. No, not Grisha's. Skadefron's. Sorry, same dude. So it covers the chat box. Ah, makes sense. Chad Logic after asking him why he seems to hate women so much. Wait, does he? I always thought he was chill. My man's fun, I like him. It's not hard to find. Well, I'm sorry, I don't have experiences. I don't get banned, okay? I'm a nice person. I never get banned. Are you hating on Chad? Chad is good. Chad is GG. What does Chad think about Ukraine? Skade from banned you after your first message. You know what he did to me, that little bitch boy? I was in his chat when he was like just starting out. And at the time, like we had chill chats. It was basically him swallowing up Russian shit, like it's a nice meal, glup, 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 glup. And me being like, but we never like really fought or anything, you know. It was just like, yeah. But what happened then is you got them guassing. You get a strike for guassing now. What happened then is I kind of forgot about him for a while, and then recently I have a thing that like tracks your name mentions in chat, right? So I know who is talking shit about me. And I get a notification. It's like, you were mentioned in Skadefron's chat, and I was mentioned in the ban notification. Skadefron banned Wikidex from the chat, and I was like, what? Why? I did nothing. Grisha ban. What did you say to Grisha? We were like, hey Grisha, good luck on the front line when you go there with Wagner troops. Hope you prepared your trusty what's the name of that hammer thing? A little piece of shit. Let me see this. You went to check him out? What's he doing? Stereotypical Slav, as Slav representation, I'm offended.
Да нет, ну страшно,
чем
они ответят? Нет, что страшно может нам показать Америка? Только ядерное оружие, но наш... Наше стратегическое ядерное оружие превосходит их, они будут уничтожены.
You know what's the problem?
Он попадет в рай. У нас более
I don't want to touch into
у нас больше, так сказать, ядерного оружия, чем
that part of the internet. I don't want to have interactions with them. I prefer not being there. I think emotionally I can't deal with them. Really, truly. Okay, I think I'm way too invested in the situation. Not too invested, I don't want to say it like that. I think I'm invested as much as a person should be invested in a situation where there's a genocide attempt happening close to them. I think my level of investment is good and could be better, but it makes it so I can't really have patience for a lot of things. Butterflies? Please see Emma. Grisha used to be doing very cool streams. He used to be streaming Hearts of Iron, and then whenever he was playing a certain country, he would be like wearing their military outfit. It was actually fun. But then the full-scale invasion happened, and Grisha just went full idiot. And he has been an idiot ever since. Yeah, he was kicked out of some tournament too recently, right? Because he's a Wagner member. Little piece of shit. His whole team was disqualified. That's all I learned about Grisha in the 5 minutes. And it's enough, isn't it? Ridiculous little man. Ridiculous little man. And he's allowed to stream on Twitch, by the way. Man's allowed to stream on Twitch. Like a member of Wagner. He had a stream alert recently, and it was a drawing of him with a sledgehammer. And he's allowed to have a Twitch account. Laughable. Fucking laughable. Yeah, the videos of that don't exist. I wasn't streaming on YouTube at the time. I'm kinda sad about that. Oh, Topson did debate him though. I think a video of that does exist, right? Topson and Grisha debated, and then Grisha's mom joined. Oh, it was ridiculous. His mom is as stupid as he is.
Если они не ответят, если они не поддержат своих союзников, они будут никто, они все потеряют. Украина не союзник. Украина, да, это расходный материал. Правильно, поэтому тактическое ядерное оружие по Украине вполне легко применимо. У них нет обязательств перед Украиной. Украина это знала. Поэтому тактическое ядерное оружие по Украине отлично работает. Да ради бога, но это наша территория-то. Это не наша пока территория. Территория оккупированная подонками. Если мы собираемся эту территорию потом включить. Ну что? Я, например, считаю... Сколько... Минуточку, ну после Фукусимы, что, нельзя жить там? Ну что, ну применимо что? Что значит, кто знает? Японцы живут. Японцы после Чернобыля.
I like how he's having... There's a Japanese dude in Grisha's chat, and he wants to debate Grisha on Kuril Islands. we need to get a dude here. Her argument was that Zelensky is high on coke. Yeah, and that Bucha is a Hollywood movie. yeah, recruit the Japanese dude and be like, hey. Military uniform on top half and tracksuit buttons for his legs. He's too young to be actually mobilized for now. So all he's doing is being a little stupid bitch and glorifying the military. Keeps ours, he goes.
Там есть 3 здания в Киеве, которые надо... То есть туда тактическое ядерное оружие можно? Зачем тактическое ядерное? А там радиус небольшой. Ну, слушай, там и... Вот я Клыч нам рассказывал, какой есть. Товарищ генерал рассказывал, какой. Товарищи генералы... Для банковой обыкновенного хватит. Только мы тоже этого не делаем. Мы не сносим символы их власти. И мы не уничтожаем.
Андрей, как же можно? Это же все наше. Как же мы можем разрушать здания?
Символы
это же наши здания.
Можно разрушать.
Man, I love them so much. Glorify these nuts. I remember when I was talking to Grisha, and at one point he says that Russia had to invade Ukraine because Russians in Ukraine were threatened by a genocide. And I'm like, bro, where's your evidence for this? He has nothing. Later in the conversation, he mentions the same point. He's like, yeah, Russians were being genocided in Ukraine. I'm like, bro, where's any sort of evidence for this? He doesn't have any. Third time I asked him, he finally gave me the answer. The answer is, and I quote, my source is Vladimir Putin. That was that. That was that. That was the only thing I got from it. My source is Vladimir Putin. I was like, yeah. Fair, you little bitch. So, yeah, I'm not too... what is this? I'm not too hopeful on that little man, nor his ability to comment on this war in entirety. It's interesting that he's allowed to have a presence online. That's as much as I feel it's important to talk about him. In Minecraft? Oh! Bro, holy shit, look at this. Turkish Ministry of Transport reported the closure of Dardanelles Strait due to the forest fires. Holy shit! My sources are made it the fuck up. Yeah, basically that. I don't know if he was aware that was the... How similar those two were. I don't know if he was aware how close he is to the meme, you know? I was like... Are you... Did you want to? Because it sounded like he was referring to my sources that I made it the fuck up, you know? So it's like, did you know you were doing that? Did you word it that way because you knew? Ah, that was a weird way to say it, you know? Need to follow TOS. We always follow TOS. Hey, Zamensky!
Чотири візити: Швеція, Нідерланди, Данія, Греція, саміт Україна-Балкани, переговори на поля саміту з Болгарією, Сербією, Хорватією, Чорногорією,
Thank you. Croatia, thank you.
Молдовою, президенткою Єврокомісії. Повертаємось додому із новою політичною
підтримкою,
домовленостями. Територіальну цілісність України всі чітко підтверджують. Літаки для України будуть, додаткова бронетехніка буде, ППО посилимо. Економіка, наш експорт, європейська та євроатлантична інтеграція, практично на всіх зустрічах.
Trying to negotiate with Piki. Oh, man, whatever he wants. Whatever he wants.
Та через коридори солідарності по суходолу. Дуже важлива домовленість з Грецією, за якою я особливо вдячний прем'єру. Це готовність Греції взяти патронат над відновленням нашої Одеси.
We don't need weapons anyways, we are protected by NATO.
Дуже символічне.
So he can have every single one of them. He can have all of our shells. He can get the entirety of bad blue boys to join his military.
Я хочу відзначити сьогодні також Люксембург. Дякую за приєднання до декларації групи 7 щодо безпеки.
Luxembourg.
Кожен тиждень.
I get into politics just to be near Zelensky one day. I think unironically, I have such good feelings towards this man that like, bro.
Ще одне в Києві відбувся щорічний ветеранський форум, мав честь
I wouldn't just dare to speak to him. I saw him.
Сподіваюся на те, що всі
Like the
участь у форумі будуть
how would you call it? The idolization is fucking real. He's incredible. He's been doing an incredible job so far.
Ветеранської спільноти, українська політика героїв, тобто українська ветеранська політика має бути результативною і буде. Це відповідальність кожного.
Like there's something amazing about the way that he's holding on. And also his wife, I don't know if you followed her actions. She's amazing. She's amazing. Oh, she is so strong. The woman didn't even want to be in the eye of the public. She didn't even want to be like that much of a public figure. And now she has to hold all of these huge speeches and hold conferences and fight for her country. And she's doing an amazing job doing that. It's just, they're amazing. They're truly beautiful. Oh yeah, there are things to criticize, definitely. There were lots of things to criticize before the full-scale invasion, and Ukrainians did criticize them a lot, as far as I've seen. So there were like huge protests against this man several times. So absolutely, when it comes to his internal politics, there's definitely room for criticism. But the fact he stayed in the fucking country, the fact they're traveling around to meet allies and to get more equipment and to get more things to save their people, the fact he's traveling to the front lines, it's amazing. It's amazing that he's doing all of this work. He has reacted incredibly to everything so far. And also, of course, there's a bonus of the fact that Ukraine is fighting a just fight, right? Ukraine is fighting for itself. Ukraine is fighting for its own right to existence. So he represents a country fighting a just fight. He's doing an amazing job with it. That's genuinely fucking amazing. Oh, Putin is claiming that Russia has entered the top 5 largest economies in the world. And according to the World Bank, Russia has moved ahead, surpassing the Federal Republic of Germany in terms of purchasing power parity and economic volume. I'm pretty sure I've seen someone say this before. Have I not seen someone spread exactly the same lie and they got debunked? What would it be, like GDP current? What would it be? Have I not seen the exactly same thing mentioned? China, Japan, Germany, India. Yeah, this. Where? What is he talking about? Fundamentally changed my views in the military and alliances. Oh, same. Oh, same. I know I mentioned it before, but I noticed it a lot when I was doing the political compass test recently. And my political compass from years ago, I remember solving it, and I remember at the part of like how important is military and how important is putting money into defense for the country. And I was like, not really, not really. We're doing okay, we are protected by NATO. There's really no importance in a way of like, I don't know, giving 2% of GDP for defense to fulfill NATO's goal or whatever. Like it didn't seem important. And when I saw the last political compass test, I was like, oh shit, yeah, it's actually really fucking important. It's actually really, really fucking important. Because even if you yourself are not in the danger of being invaded, even if you yourself are, a NATO country, which effectively means no one's going to dare to attack you, still, as part of being a NATO country is having a type of responsibility towards your allies. So you should be having proper industry, you should be having proper production, you should be having proper defense in order to be able to be useful when an ally needs help. You must be prepared for this. That is why you joined the fucking alliance. Everyone's supposed to be helping each other. How are we going to be helping each other if none of us are reaching the 2% goal and all of us are useless when it comes to this? So I definitely changed my mind on that a lot, and now, yeah, I definitely think there's a lot more importance to funding the defense and funding the military properly and training military properly. Absolutely. Central Libertarian. Oh shit. I got. Fuck. Which one fraction was it? It's bit up, bit left. I think that it was in the area. Shit. Wait. I'm trying to remember it. Soktem? I think it was Soktem. I think it was that one. NATO will protect us Baltics from Russia. It should. I don't know if it will, but like it should. If we all reach the 2% goal, and if we all were a lot more active than what we were, I think it should. I don't know if it will. I don't know if it will. And especially, like, again, if you look at how NATO was middle right and middle down. Oh, you're down. I'm like up. I'm a little bit up. Though I'm very close to center, to be honest. Basically, when it comes to your political compass thing, as long as you are close to the middle, I think you're a normal person. Like in let's say the middle parts are like closer. If you're in the squares, I think there's something wrong with you. If you're like on the outer lines, there's a problem. There's a problem. But if you are anywhere closer to the middle, usually what I've found is that as much as our priorities may differ in some situations, usually you're able to have a normal conversation with people. I don't know how to say, like, what's the word for explaining it, but like, just don't be on the outlines. If you're in the full outlines, it's fucking weird. You can easily create a military-industrial complex with an economy and a mind of its own that can easily destroy your country. If you know what happens here, the corruption, political influence it buys, I don't think you'd like it. So you are referring to what? I'm normal and I'm left. That's what all left people think. I've met people who are like straight like left corner, and they think they're normal. They're not normal. They're not normal. It's a difference from the right people, because right people usually they know that they're not normal. Usually they're willing to admit it. They still think they're based, which, you know, it's impossible to have a conversation with anyone on the outskirts. All of them are fucking delusional. But I don't know, there's like something about at least the far right ones admitting that they're sick in the head, and then the far leftists being like, no, I'm actually the base one, and I'm the moral one, and I'm the one who cares about the people. Hoo-dee-doo-dee-doo. Why don't Ukrainians just give up, and then there will be no genocide anymore? Oh, I'm so smart. But yeah, basically, if the military-industrial complex takes the hold over the country, and, you know, it funds starting useless wars and stuff like that, I could see why that would be an issue. I feel like, though, in that is why you should be having trust in the institutions, and I just feel like it's not really going to happen, especially with, like, you know, giving 2% to the military. It's not really like you're doing anything too much with it, you know what I mean? Plus, then I do think you can how do I say it? I think I'm coming at it from the perspective of, like, you need to have a strong military, but I don't really think you need to be actively involving mentioned military in useless wars in order to justify its existence. I think being a NATO member and having the obligation to help your allies is justification of the military's existence in the first place. I disagree with a lot of leftists. Yeah, I understand that. What about the far right is sick in the head? They tend to be hateful of everything you can imagine. They tend to be hateful of any sort of difference that there is in humanity. They tend to be very sexist, very racist, very deluded with the idea of traditional lifestyle is like the recent thing that I'm seeing with far right people. Very deluded with what they think are the traditions that they are fighting for. Oh yeah, center is like, you know, I don't have too many opinions on center people, because, like, you can't really figure out what. But usually I am, how to say this, when we have these types of conversations, right, it's, I think, always good to have an actual conversation about policies rather than how people choose to align themselves. Does that make sense? Right? It's like the thing with, you know, being left but disagreeing with a lot of leftists. People define these things differently. People say that they are hard left. They don't know what it means. It's like when people say that they are anti-imperialist or people say that they are anti-war. They don't know what this means. What's important is specifically asking about their opinions on a very specific topic and then figuring out their position based on that. When it comes to the way that they are self-identifying, usually it's very, very hard to figure out what they mean. Like, you can use it broadly, for example. You can use it broadly, but it's mostly, I wouldn't really recommend treating any of these seriously. I would recommend talking about specific policies. Oh yeah, like that's a good example. A lot of leftist streamers having horrible Ukraine and Russia takes. I don't, like, from my position, you can't be a leftist and have a horrible Ukraine and Russia take. I don't think those two go in together. I genuinely think you're deluded if you think you are a leftist and you have a take that Russian invasion on Ukraine is justified, or that, you know, we shouldn't be helping Ukraine defend itself. I don't think you can actually be a leftist. But a lot of people will choose to call themselves leftists regardless, which is why, you know, it's kind of useless to, I think, base your opinion on people on how they self-identify. Just base opinion on them based on how they respond to certain policies. Soviet propaganda was using the word all the time. Yeah, that too. Left and right is subjective, not objective. That's a good way to say it here. Oh. Buinaksky district in Dagestan put up a banner for 48 of the Russian army soldiers from the district that have been killed in Ukraine. total population of the district is 80,000. Shit. Hey, sorry, by the way, Barbosa, I saw your question up there, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna answer it, and then I skipped over. Plenki, I think, is okay. Plenković is okay. His party is well known for corruption, so it's like not really a party to trust, basically. They are really corrupt, and they have been really corrupt for years, basically. But I do think Plenki is doing a good job. I think he's doing a good job. I'm quite happy we have him as the prime minister instead of having Milanovic or someone from that sort of society. I'm GG with Plenki, to be honest. I'm GG with Plenki. Opinion about Putin in Croatia is rather negative, because Putin is basically the new version of Milosevic. Croatia was invaded by Serbia in 1990s by Serb paramilitaries, mostly. We all either know of people who have been harmed or killed during the war, or we, like plenty of us still living today, were victims of this war. If you live in any part of a country close to where the active war zone was, you can still see the effects. My village specifically, for example, it was one of the first that were invaded by Serbs, one of the first where they placed their paramilitaries. So, reading about, for example, Prigozhin taking over villages, reading about Girkin and his men taking over parts of Russia in 2014, it gives a very strong connection to what our people have suffered through, and thus Putin is seen mostly negatively. Russians are seen mostly negatively. Ukrainian fight in a lot of ways mirrors Croatian fight, and because of this we are supporters. Politics is about choosing less worse. Yeah, it depends on the situation. When it came to Plenković, for example, kinda. In the USA, I'm both a right-winger and a left-winger. How that works, I don't know. Yeah, I remember someone here in chat being like, oh yeah, did you know that Biden is actually more right-wing than European left-wing? And I was like, what do you mean he's more right-wing? No, they were like, he's more right-wing than most of European right-wing. I was like, what do you mean he's more right-wing than our right-wing? And it's because if you look at it from the perspective of like healthcare, for example, yeah, like in Europe, if someone's like, oh yeah, we don't want to give healthcare for everyone, they would be seen as far fucking right. They would never have any chance of getting into politics. But in USA, you people just see that as normal, So during the whole thing with like left and right, it does very much depend on a culture and a country. It reminds me of the conversation about nationalism too, for example. How nationalism depends on your country's history, specifically. So if your country was mostly the one invaded and attacked and colonized, nationalism in your country will likely have a lot to do with national liberation. But if your country was the one doing the invading and doing the colonizing, your nationalism will likely have a lot to do with imperialism and irredentism. So that's too, it's, you meet two nationalists, you meet a nationalist from Norway and a nationalist from Sweden, they're likely not having same views. Biden? Kind of surveillance police state type? Really? Oh damn, I didn't know about that. I had no idea about that. Mostly negatively, if you invade a country and kill thousands, people might not like you. I did say mostly negatively because there is a crumb of society which is Yugo-nostalgic. And they do have the opinion that, a dictator is better than a democratic leadership. So that's where I was coming from that. But it's not a big part of society. Our tourism is like 30% of our, maybe 20%. I think 20-30% of our GDP. Tourism is like the strongest part of our economy. Very, very strong. And it's doing really, really well. So I'm GG with Croatian tourism. Making a person spend 250k and go to school till they are 28 makes them in debt, and to justify the life choice of being a doctor in the US, you need to charge an arm and a leg. Oh. USA. Yeah, systemic problems, yeah. Stream, not really long. I basically plan to go to Topson when he starts streaming. So... Visegrad. Biden's more anti-Russia than pro-Ukraine. As long as he is... Oh wait, we watched this one, right? As long as he is helping Ukraine defend itself, I'm GG. Very anti-Russia based. It's like in Yugoslavia, right? Was Biden anti-Serb there? Or was he pro-Kosovo? I don't think it matters. Belgrade got bombed. That's it. That's what matters. Dobson, no. As far as I know, no. He does stream on Kick and he does stream on YouTube, which is why we usually watch him. We go to other platforms. I should be raiding some like Twitch streamers probably to like build friendships with Twitch streamers. Who's live when we end? I used to be raiding Topson the whole time. What you mean by right-wing is that they are authoritarian probably, but they are leftist, Marxist, Stalinist, ideologically possessed morons, brainwashed by some idiot Marxist professor book. It's not a coincidence that they hold the same positions on Ukraine as Nazis and far-right. Horseshoe theory is true. Yeah, like that, like that, like that. Skade, I ain't touching Skade. I ain't touching Skade. I'm not going close. Topson never raids others. Yeah, he just tells you to leave. Every single time he's like, leave, and then we leave, and that's it. Kinda feels good, you know, when he's ordering me around. Cool man. XQC. Haven't watched XQC. What's XQC's opinion on Europe? Does XQC comment on that yet? It's kind of weird to me. I was thinking about that recently, about how like Hassan has so many stupid ass fucking takes on what's going on in Europe. But then you look at his friends, streamers, and they don't even like comment on this. There's something very, very interesting about that. Right? Like if you look at Pokimane, for example. I was in Poki's stream recently to see what she's doing. And she's basically not touching political topics at all. She doesn't come close to them, which is quite interesting considering the fact she's very, very close to the dumbass man. Yeah, XQC feels very American. Good shop within. MBL, they're making a silent revolution in Brazil. Constructing a new way of administrating a country with so many problems. Oh, damn. Huh. Wait, let me go to news now. In his heart of hearts, XQC is, he's American. People on top don't hold each other accountable because they fear the same treatment. I can see that. I can see that. Or they're talking about... oh, damn guys, you can sleep well. Oh shit, I was so scared of this. I couldn't sleep for like 2 days. Oh damn, my man. Well, is BRICS going to challenge G7? Holy shit, is BRICS going to destroy G7? But yeah, it seems that finally we have gotten the confirmation of peace from BRICS itself. And we have learned that BRICS is not actually a threat to G7. So thank you. Thank you. The bloc is not meant to act as a challenger to the United States or to formal organizations such as the Group of 7 or Group of 20. Thank you. Oh damn, I'm very, very happy about this. Finally, I can stop shaking in fear. BRICS is a threat to BRICS. We're gonna see China and India beating each other up with sticks again very, very soon. The best thing about being Canadian is not being American. Okay, that's true. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. If it means anything, when Europeans talk about like Canada, they mostly talk about how much better you people are from the USA, and like considering the fact you are really close to them, that is that's a great thing. Like the culture didn't really get washed over. BRICS nations don't really give a shit. It's China dethroning America is what scares American capitalists. Yeah, China's not gonna dethrone shit. We can stop worrying. Yeah, that's true, that's true, that's true. Politics? Oh yeah, when I go into news about their politics, it's mostly just BRICS. Ooh, hacker testifies that Bolsonaro asked him to tamper with voting machines. Oh. Hey, I wanted to watch a video on Austria, now that you mentioned you're Austrian. I wanted to watch a video on Austria today on stream, and then I forgot about it. I have this video on Austria, and then also I have this video on the least popular leaders in Europe. We have to watch this before, but also this one in USA. We have to watch all of this before we go to Topsen. Topsen, my man. You need to learn about this, okay? I need you to be educated in what's happening in what's the word? Europe, because European Parliament elections are coming next year, and I need you to vote for someone smart and not to vote in the Irish imbeciles again, okay? America's hat keeps the brain contained.
Austria's politics rarely make the international headlines. It's a small country of less than 10 million people, and
tiny country fucking loses.
History, power has oscillated between the Conservative People's Party.
I would like to think if I was 20, I'd be willing to vote. Oh, I cannot deal with the same thing, because I already like do I do local help, I do volunteering, and also I do donations, right? And I feel like in a way I'm doing more than a lot of people I know, but at the same time sometimes like I open the news and there was recently this one Ukrainian woman who had been killed in action, and she's about my age, you know, and I see that sometimes and I'm like, bro, damn. A part of me is like, bro, would I be able to do this if I was in her position? And I don't know. I want to say I would, but I don't know. And then I go and I donate more cash to feel better. So that's a piece of advice. You want to feel better? Go and donate for... we were recently collecting cash money for ponchos to buy for Ukrainian snipers.
However, for the last few years, the People's Party has been consumed by scandals, and the Social Democrats have been beset by infighting, which has only continued since they elected a self-described Marxist as their leader.
Oh, guys, listen. The first sign of winter coming has just happened. In Skadefron's chat, there has just been a message, and I quote, "Winter is gonna be fun this year for Europe and Ukraine." You know, summer's ending. If Russians are starting their bullshit with scaring us with how horrible winter's gonna be.
This year. Now, this chaos has benefited a series of non-mainstream parties, including the Austrian Communists and the
Wait, do they stream in English?
But it's
they don't, right?
especially benefited the radically right-wing FPO, who have historically had close ties to Putin and spend a lot of time talking about the apparent threat of Muslim immigration. So in this video,
it's not
we're
a
going to take a
Marxist.
look at the scandals that broke Austrian politics. how they've supercharged the FPO, and what might happen next.
I want to see.
Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. When German media published a secretly recorded video of then Vice President Heinz Christian Strache, who was the leader of the minor party in Austria's right-wing coalition, the Freedom Party, or FPO. In the video, which was recorded in Ibiza in 2017, Strache is seen negotiating with a woman he believed was the niece of a Russian oligarch, where he discussed providing the FPO with positive news coverage in return for government contracts. Now, after the video came out, Strache accused the media of a political assassination, but he did eventually resign, and the coalition government collapsed soon after, leading to a snap election. At those elections, the FPO lost a number of votes to their former coalition partner, the centre-right People's Party, led by Sebastian Kurz, who ultimately won nearly 38% of the vote,
I remember that dude.
giving them 71 seats in Austria's 183-seat National Assembly. The People's Party then went on to form a two-party coalition with the Austrian Green Party, who had their best ever result with 14% of the vote. Now, this might sound like a bit of a weird alliance, given that the People's Party are pretty conservative, while the Greens are pretty left-wing. But it was sort of the only option left, given that Kurz had also ruled out a grand coalition with the Social Democrats. Anyway, the new People's Party Green Coalition was sworn in early 2020, with Kurz as Chancellor, and Strache was then jailed a year later in 2021 for corruption crimes related to the Ibiza affair. And at the time, it looked like Austrian politics might finally be back to normal. But in October 2021, only 18 months after the government was sworn in, Kurz was forced to resign.
Family also, definitely plays a huge part in it.
Raided his office on the suspicion that he'd misused government funds to pay for flattering opinion polling while he was vying.
I wonder from my position sometimes, like, I don't really have
the case then took
kids.
A dramatic turn last year.
I have a husband.
A colleague testified against him. And
would I have the balls to join the war if we were to get invaded now? Would I have the balls to go on the front lines?
Multiple People's Party officials had to resign due to their ties to the scandal. And last year, editors at two of the country's major media outlets were also forced to resign after it was revealed that they'd been sending overly cozy texts to senior People's Party politicians. Then, just last week, Kurz was indicted yet again, this time for allegedly making false statements to a parliamentary inquiry in 2020. You get the idea then. Austrian politics has been struck by a series of scandals since 2019, and the People's Party have been essentially unable to recover. Originally, they replaced Kurz with Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg, but he was kicked out just a few weeks later after he failed to secure the support of the party's state governors. Schallenberg was then replaced by Interior Minister Karl Nehammer, who was
the one you hate.
Popular, but today has one of Europe's lowest approval ratings.
Why?
And that is largely because the People's Party is still marred in scandal, but also because, like basically every other government in Europe, he's been unable to get a handle on inflation, which hit a peak of 11.2% in
but that's
January,
like a global thing.
and is still running at 7%. Nehammer then hit the headlines once again last year when, in an off-color joke, he said that people would have to resort to either alcohol or psychotropic drugs if inflation doesn't come down soon. Now, you might expect the People's Party's woes to benefit the Social Democrats, given that they've traditionally been the other big party in Austrian politics. But the Social Democrats have also been beset by infighting in the past few years, mostly over the issue of immigration. And early this year, they made matters yet more complicated by electing a controversial new leader called Andreas Babler. Babler is sort of the Austrian equivalent of Jeremy Corbyn. He's a self-described Marxist who wants Austria to accept more refugees,
so wait, is he Marxist then?
Spending, and who once described the EU as the most aggressive military alliance that's ever existed, and, quote, worse than NATO. And his politics apparently aren't all that popular in Austria either. According to Politico's poll of polls, the Social Democrats have fallen from a peak of about 30% last year to nearer 20% today. Now, perhaps unsurprisingly, this chaos surrounding the two major parties has generated an immense amount of anti-establishment sentiment, which has benefited more unorthodox parties.
Oh, thank you for the documentary link, by the way. I'm definitely gonna watch it. I've got no idea what's happening in Brazil.
And vehemently opposes shandies.
So it would be great to learn. Thank you.
10% in a couple of polls. And its founder, known by his stage name Marco Pogo, won 8.3% of the vote in 2022's presidential election. Similarly, while polling suggests that the Austrian Communist Party are only on about 3% of the vote, they've been performing remarkably well at state-level elections, winning the mayoral race in Graz, Austria's second largest city, and getting 12% of the vote in Salzburg. But perhaps the biggest beneficiary of all of this chaos has been the FPO. Yep, that's right, the very same FPO who were caught up in the Ibiza affair in 2019 and arguably kicked off all of this chaos. And 4 years later, it's as if the Ibiza affair never happened, and the FPO are riding high in the polls on 30%, as well as dominating Austria's state-level elections. The FPO had their first real taste of power in 1999, when under their charismatic leader Jörg Haider, they came second with 27% of the vote, and went on to form a two-party coalition with the People's Party. At the time, the FPO's radical right-wing politics and their Nazi past was so controversial in Europe that 14 other EU member states effectively cut diplomatic ties with Austria. Today, though, the FPO has made political hay by attacking the government on lockdown measures, inflation, and Austria's cooperation with NATO members, which the FPO see as a threat to Austria's neutrality. For context, the FPO have also historically been pretty pro-Russia. They signed a cooperation agreement with Putin's United Russia Party in 2016 and walked out when Zelensky spoke to the Austrian parliament early this year.
It was them!
They also really don't like Muslim immigration.
Pieces of shit.
Relatively Eurosceptic, proposing that the euro be split into a hard North euro and a soft South euro. And it doesn't look like any of this is set to resolve anytime soon, with the next election looking like it's going to end in deadlock, because the People's Party have ruled out giving them the chancellery, but the FPO's leader have stressed that they won't accept anything less. Ultimately, it's always worth paying attention to Austria at the moment more than ever, with their politics heating up and potentially having ramifications for the EU, NATO, and the war in Ukraine. And the best way to do that is with ground news. So a website developed by a former NASA engineer on a mission to...
A little piece of shit, little bit. I never see these coming. I never figure out when they're happening. Let me see if our man Thompson is live and then I have to leave. Let me see what my man is, and we're gonna be watching the videos on the most hated European politicians tomorrow, okay? We were gonna go into that tomorrow. Because right now we gotta see Thompson. Just wanna see Austria.
This video is a good example that if you
Austrian foreign minister defending military neutrality. Fuck. German chancellor insists border controls with Austria are necessary. In Austria it's written with a small first letter.
What does this bloke own about?
We are a neutral country. It is in our constitution. We are funding more on the humanitarian side. To be clear, we may be militarily neutral, but Austria has never been neutral when it comes to values. You are neutral when it comes to values if you don't help Ukraine. I hate this so much. I've spoken to a Irish person recently, and he, at one point in the conversation, I mentioned the fact that the Irish refused, until very recently, they were refusing to like help train Ukrainians. Only recently they actually started training them. Was it for flying or whatever? I don't know what it was. I know that the training started recently and they're already having people protesting, right? And this piece of shit, he goes, oh yeah, well, that's because we are militarily neutral, but we always condemned the invasion.
It's called This Is
You don't condemn it. You don't condemn the invasion. If you refuse to help Ukraine, you're not condemning the invasion. You're GG with the invasion. You're pretending to condemn it, but you don't actually condemn it. You don't have those like genuine values and genuine morals that would make you able to condemn something like that. It's the same, I feel like, with Austria right now, you know, oh, militarily neutral, but when it comes to values, we have never been neutral. You are neutral when it comes to values too. You can't condemn a horrible thing happening and have the resources to help and then refuse to help. Impossible. Oh yeah, I've heard. I think we're GG as long as we don't really have a lot of viewers. If we reach higher standing, higher social standing, higher rank on the Twitch streamer scale, I feel it might be a bit bigger of an issue. But like so far, yeah, that's true though, that's true. We did have some Grisha people around in chat, so yeah, based. But yeah, giving it the link and I'm leaving. You'd regret it? I'd have to move to Kick and I don't like Kick. How do you feel about Kick? Do people like Kick? I don't like Kick. I'm not really a big fan. Oh, why is my thing not connected to YouTube? Who the fuck knows? But yeah, I'm not really too happy with Kick. It feels like Twitch but green, so I'm not happy about that. I wanted to see more unique stuff, you know? I want to see more of something. I wish they, at least if they're going to be stealing ideas, I wish they steal ideas from Trovo, for example, but like the spells and stuff like that. I wish they would do that, you know? It's like, this is just them stealing just and only from Twitch. So it created like Twitch but green. If you're gonna steal, at least steal from 10 apps and then put the best parts of these 10 apps into your app, you know what I mean? Not enough to move apps? Yeah, same. I still watch mostly people on Twitch. I just and only watch Topsen and on Kick and that's it. But yeah, I've given you the link. So I'm leaving the stream now. I'm gonna go hang out with Topsen. So go there and bully him and call him cute. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. We will be talking about the least liked politicians of Europe tomorrow. And then I'll see what else. But that is the topic I really want to go through. So yeah, stay strong. I had fun. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for chilling around. Hope you